What's going on, gang, and welcome back to Scared of Normal. I'm Mike Murphy, and today's guest is one of the most stylish people to grace a BMX bike, and we're sitting outside of his koi pond right now, which is a historic moment here on Scared of Normal. We're stoked to welcome 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙀𝘿 to the show. Thanks for coming or letting us come to hang out with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for making the trip from Austin. I know it's not too far, but yeah, man, it's awesome to have you here. And yeah, figured this would be a nice little spot to do a little interview.
Yeah,
so.
This is the best spot we've ever done a podcast yet. So we've made like a bunch of history on this trip alone. Like we've only done them in our studio, like I was saying earlier. And then, yeah, when we walked in, you pointed at the koi pond. I was like, dude, this is like a perfect way to cap off the trip. So
yeah, my little one's napping inside, and I don't know. I figured we could be as loud as we want out here. So yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, yeah, thanks for letting us invade your space for a little bit.
Of course, man. Anytime.
This is going to be super fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's kick this thing off for the people who don't know who you are. How would you describe yourself to somebody?
Let's see. Mid-30s BMX rider, still doing it for a living. Father, husband, from Austin, Texas. And yeah, man, just fucking still trying to make it happen, I guess.
It's awesome, dude. I love it. Mid-30s, still doing it at a pro level. That's like, I mean, that's an accomplishment in and of itself, right? Like,
yeah, for sure, man. I'm really happy with where I'm at, and I've got this big ramp project ahead of me, and really stoked to start working on some projects for that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to see what the future holds of it for sure. I'm definitely still feeling amazing on the bike, so yeah, it's not slowing down anytime soon.
Well, I think that's been like the coolest thing to watch is like, as you have gotten older, you continue to innovate, and like your style is like still like you're still progressing, and I think just in life in general, like a lot of people, once they hit that 30-year mark, they kind of slow down and like get into the groove of normal. And like in the last few years, you've like reinvented who 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙀𝘿 is, like the Instagram clips with the breaks, like it's crazy, man.
Thank you,
so
man.
like
thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, really the motivation has never stopped. It's always been there for me, kind of, through pandemic, like my wife was pregnant, and I knew that as soon as the baby came, I was going to have to be super hands-on with that. And I think I just spent that whole time leading up to then just fucking going in every day as much as I could. And yeah, I don't know, I stacked up quite a bit that summer.
Yeah, you were posting a lot of cool stuff during that era.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
man.
you still are, but
Yeah.
like the amount of content that was coming out, like I just remember like sitting around with all my homies, and we were always just like showing these clips to each other, like, dude, what? Another one? What spurred you to like put the brakes back on? Because you were a brakeless rider forever, as long as I can remember.
Yeah. Let's see. I had them off for probably a good 12, 13 years or so, honestly. But, obviously grew up with them as well. I think it's a pretty normal thing for kids' first bikes nowadays to be brakeless.
Yeah.
So there's a large generation of bikers nowadays that, never have brakes. I know people that have been riding 10 years that have
That's
never
kind of crazy to
ridden with
think
them
about
on their bike.
Yeah.
So I came obviously from a different generation and grew up racing and was on all sorts of bikes with brakes, prior to taking them off. I think the motivation for putting them back on really came down to like a couple different instances where like I rode other people's bikes with brakes at my local park, and it just kind of reignited that interest in it.
That's awesome.
I started messing with old shit that I used to do and realizing that it was like coming a little bit easier than obviously what it used to be. Like, I don't know, just it all started making a little bit more sense, obviously, than, when I used to run them.
Yeah, like when you were younger, like, because it's funny like how the bike skill develops over the years, like without the brakes, then you put them back on, you're like, oh wait, why was this hard before?
Yeah, there was a lot of progression through those years, so putting them back on, I felt like there was a lot more I could take advantage of than when I previously had them on.
For sure.
You know, so it's cool. I see a lot of other riders kind of noticing that same thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like a resurgence of brakes, which has been cool to watch because
Yeah.
I always thought, I'm like, when is that going to come back, if ever? You know, and they kind of seem like they're back.
I was wondering too, you know? Yeah, and it's, I mean, yeah, there's really no explanation for shit like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just cool to see it, you know, and it's cool to see other riders doing it for kind of similar reasons, you know, and just seeing how it switches up their styles and whatnot. Like, it's cool. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Like, it keeps me excited watching other people who like switch to them and whatnot, you know? Like,
I think that's the perfect word too, is refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
was it for you, like, you know, House Park is probably the park you've ridden the most over the last few years. Is that like when you went back there the first time with the brakes on, was it like riding a new skate park? Just new different lines with the brakes?
Absolutely, you know, and there was things that I always wanted to do with brakes that never happened, you know, obviously because I never had them, like mainly like, you know, doing like that foo-foo on that pillar out of the bowl. Like I'd always wanted to do it and knew I could do it, but I've been brakeless since the fucking park opened.
Yeah.
You know, so that was like the first day I built up my bike with my new bike with brakes.
Yeah.
I just like went there and like claimed it, you know?
That's awesome. How to celebrate in a big way.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
a big one too. I was actually looking at it when I rode there the other day. I was just like, huh, that's a pretty far pop back in.
Yeah, you know, it was a little bit of one of those like foot and mouth situations. Like I started hopping on it and it was way easier to get onto it than come back in,
Sure.
right? You know? I just had to figure it out. I don't know. I'm stoked they did it though.
That's sick. Yeah, for sure.
Just little shit like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably like, you know, also like getting older, it's probably a good way to like warm up at the park too, is doing some jibby stuff as opposed to like dropping into the bowl and just like blasting right away.
All of that. Yeah. And it's weird too. I mean, I think I never did it years before because I was always super worried about how it would change the way my bike felt.
Yeah.
You know, just because you do have to run your bars a little bit wider and I don't know, your bike just feels different with brakes on it.
Yeah,
right?
even just the visual of looking down and like seeing the lever there, you know, like it does feel completely different.
But I feel like I'm at that point now to where like I'm past all that shit to where like I probably will just have them on forever.
That's
now,
cool.
You know? So,
yeah, right on, dude.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go back.
Huh, that's cool. So you talked a little bit about growing up here in Austin. What was that period of life like? Like, where did you guys live downtown growing up, or like whereabouts were you?
I grew up in South Austin, so have lived fairly central my whole life. My parents were divorced when I was super young, so they had joint custody, and we were moving around in different places around town, like all growing up, you know. So I lived in a bunch of different places around town, but mainly around South Austin, you know?
Right on.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. So your first BMX bike was a bike your dad picked up from the pawn shop, correct?
Yes.
Heck
yeah. 7 years old, 7th birthday. Yeah, it was a steel Mongoose Moto Mag.
Sick.
Like straight from the 70s, you know? Yeah, I mean, at that time, I was super small too, you know, like really small for my age. So I think the bike was, you know, probably 45 pounds or so and super tall, had these big, weird, like ape hanger bars on them, you know, so it was a unique first bike for sure.
Yeah.
Like way different than what a kid's first bike could be like nowadays.
Dude,
right?
it's crazy,
you know?
like what that progression has looked like.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that feeling was like on that 7th birthday when that bike got shown off to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was hooked right away, you know. I mean, 9th Street had already existed at that time, so I'm pretty sure that I got the bike that day and went directly there. That was kind of like the whole reason why my dad wanted to get me the BMX bike, is because he had driven past 9th Street. And
Did you guys live near there then?
We were probably about 5 miles from there,
Okay.
but this is early 90s in Austin, and I don't know, like just get the traffic and we were a lot closer to it than
What it
what
is now.
5 miles away. Being
Tra-
5 miles away from 9th Street now could mean it could take you an hour to drive there.
Dude, the traffic here is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like even just in the last, like, because we've been coming here for like 4 or 5 years now, me and my wife, and like just this trip compared to 5 years ago, it's like what you're saying. It's like it can take you an hour to get just across town now.
Yeah, it's nonstop, man.
So technically you lived right by there in today's standards.
I mean, once I became kind of a local there, into my teenage years, I would just pedal there from my house,
Sick.
like, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Just were you like riding all the stuff along the way there too? Like riding street along the way? Yeah, I would
just hit straight down Lamar and be like a 20-minute pedal from my house.
That's super
and then I'd ride 9th Street all day, and then my dad would just come pick me up in the evening from there.
Dang.
So
right on.
Yeah, because I was homeschooled, so.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So I would try and get done like as early in the day as possible every day.
Yep.
Right? Just so I could fucking split, and go somewhere to ride,
Heck yeah.
And really at that time, there wasn't anywhere else besides 9th Street, really.
Sure.
So,
have you always been homeschooled, or did you ever go to a public school?
No, I've went to public school up until 4th grade, and then got taken out, and then went back for 6th, and then got taken back out for 6th, and at that point, like, my dad had moved out to the country a little bit, probably like 20 minutes out past like where we are now.
Okay.
So good, like 45 minutes outside the city. So I was doing homeschool out there, and then, going to Ramp Ranch like later on in the day, which was probably like another 45-minute drive in the other direction.
Wow. And was that just like a kind of like a small skate park with
ramps?
Or?
Yeah, that was our only indoor park
that
we've ever really had around here. We didn't get any cement stuff until, I'm probably gonna butcher this, but into the mid 2000s or so.
Sure.
And I think Mabel was our first park.
Okay.
So growing up here, it was only wood ramps that people had around town.
Yeah.
Like we didn't get to take advantage of the cement parks that exist here now.
I feel like that culture still kind of lingers though, like with the ramps in the backyard, because like it's very rare that you continue to see like people with like wooden ramps at their disposal in their yards. And like when I think about it, it's like, you have Dennis, you have a few guys in Florida, and then the majority of them over the years the iconic ones have been here. So that must be kind of a lingering effect of the lack of concrete parks back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think so few of them exist because they're fucking expensive. They're a bitch to build and maintain. There's always the possibility that someone around you is going to be upset about it.
Yep.
And make you tear it down, essentially. And as soon as the city gets involved with wherever you have said ramp, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, there's no winning when it comes to dealing with the government.
So, you gotta be really kind of judicial about all of it, and
hard.
Dot all your fucking boxes.
Sounds like you've been going through that yourself.
Dude, I'm 2 years into this shit, so it's like, and I don't want anyone fucking with me.
Yeah.
Right? So
you want to have it bulletproof by the time you get to the building phase.
Yeah, once we start building, man, I want anyone to be able to bat an eye.
For sure.
And I don't think I've pretty much set myself up to. I don't think anyone will be able to.
That's super cool.
That was important to me in this process. You know?
Super wise too, because I feel like, especially when you're younger, like you're not really thinking about like, what the city council and like the code enforcers are going to say about something like that. You're just building ramps, and, you're a grown up now. So you're looking at all those things that like, cool, man, like who's going to come in and try and drop the hammer on me?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, the last house I lived in with Devin Hutchins and Aaron Ross, we had a little mini ramp that we just said, fuck it, we're gonna put it like on our front porch, basically, like directly off our front steps, and way different times, right?
Yeah.
You know, like
Was this the house from Prop 72 or was this a different
I
house?
think so.
Okay.
No, that might have been no, that was actually the house after that
Okay.
house. So it was the last house that we all lived in together before we all grew up essentially. Like, or I don't know. Aaron bought a house after that, and
That's a hard
yeah.
progression, man, going from hanging out with the boys every day to like everybody kind of going their own ways.
Dude, totally. I mean, I'd lived in, you know, I'd done nothing but live in crazy BMX houses until that time.
For
you know?
sure.
So I was like, I don't 25 or 26 at that time.
Dang.
You know, so a lot of years of
Craziness.
yeah.
Did you
Maybe
go
a little bit younger than that, actually.
Did you go from like living with all your homies to living by yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. What was that like?
I didn't go back.
It's like a culture shock.
I didn't go back. Yeah. As soon as I fucking experienced that, it was like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, now I lived with Sean Sexton. I mean, that was the last roommate I had, but I mean, that was super chill with me. I mean, obviously,
For
me and
sure.
Sexton are super close, so that was really cool living with him.
Yeah. He seems like he'd be such a sick dude to live with.
For sure. And it was when I moved out, I had gotten this apartment that was like, you know, right down the road from Whole Foods. The house park had just gotten built. It was, you know, a 2-minute pedal from there.
Sick.
So it was like in this really good location, and we were able to find this bigger apartment in there, and that's why Sean moved in.
Right
you know?
on.
But I had met my wife around that time, so she was living with me there and whatnot. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was just hard to go backwards.
Yeah.
From there, it was like,
Yeah. I feel like that's an impossible thing when you're like, even though they're your friends. So you're like, if somebody makes a mess or whatever, it's like, damn, man. Like, whereas like when it's yourself, you're like accountable for your own stuff and you made the mess and just little things like that,
yeah,
you know that you left the dishes in the sink and you don't have to ask somebody to clean it up. Like, it's kind of funny how that progression works.
For the amount of years that we all lived together, and the amount of houses, and the amount of crazy nights, it's really surprising that like nothing really bad didn't happen to any one of us.
Yeah, it's crazy because you guys all seem like you're still all super tight homies too.
Dude,
and like,
very close.
I feel like that's very rare that you come out of those
But
situations.
we have all pushed every one of our fucking buttons to the fullest.
Yeah. I feel like that's what makes a true friendship though. You get to come back. It turns into family at that point.
Yeah.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
So going back to the childhood piece of things, like you got that bike and you immediately went into racing. Is that correct?
Yeah, not long. Really like within like a couple months after receiving that bike. Because the scene here, 93, 94, like really there's, there might be 10 people riding in the city. You know, like and it's a lot of like older guys. And they're either at 9th Street or they're at the racetrack because those are the only two places to ride in town at that time. So it didn't take us long after finding out about 9th Street that, there's a racetrack too.
Okay.
And
what was the racetrack called at the time? Is that one still around?
It was called Capital City BMX.
Okay.
So that track isn't there anymore. But I raced there the whole time that I raced. I raced for 8 years or so. But it actually reopened in a different area, probably in the last 6 or 7 years.
Awesome.
In Pflugerville.
Is that where Aaron's always out pedaling at? Okay.
Yeah. So that's like that place. That's the new Capital City BMX, and it's a national track. Asphalt berms.
It looks sweet.
It's
big lights and everything.
Yeah, it's nothing like the old Capital City BMX. Which is rad. Like
it's crazy to see the progression of the racetracks.
Yeah.
From that period of time to now, like how fast that's really happened. You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, the race world is it's a different world for sure. There's a lot of money over there, man.
And it's very serious, you know, like
it's a different thing. I don't know, it's so close but so far away at the same time.
That's I feel what's so interesting about it too, is that it's like it's so tightly wound or tight close to what freestyle is. Yeah. But like the people couldn't be any more different, like just because you do have to train and you do have to eat good and like you're really focused on those things. Whereas like over here, like you're doing some of that stuff, but like it's not at the same level, you know? You're not doing like these crazy fitness tests and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, it's a sport, right? I mean, and if you want to take it seriously on that level over there, you have to take it seriously on the physical side of things, you know? But
100%.
I don't know. A lot of those, I paid some close attention to the race world just because, I don't know, I think it's fun to still watch nationals and
Yeah.
whatnot, you know, especially the pro level.
Do you have any favorite racers at the moment? Anybody you're watching?
Oh shit, put me on the spot. Honestly, no, I'm not really that tuned into
Yeah.
it. People are probably watching. Yeah, they're gonna be mad about it, but
Colt has a guy, right?
yeah,
Is it Vic?
yeah,
Is that
Vic.
his name?
Yeah,
He rips, dude. He
yeah,
has
for
cool
sure. He's
style.
fast as fuck, man.
And
I
it's
think
sick seeing them have like a pro
he
like
races
race
on
frame.
flats too. I think.
No way.
Yeah, so he's like takes
Oh,
like a super
dude.
old school approach about it, you know. So he's like ripping tabs in the middle of the like race
As
and
it
whatnot,
should
you know.
be. Yeah. That's super cool.
I don't know. I for some reason feel like my son will become interested in it, which will probably get me back into it.
That was my next question.
I
I was going
really
to ask
feel
if
like
you've been
that will
out there.
probably happen. So I don't know. I'm kind of low key preparing for that.
The
You know, like
resurgence of
I'm
racing.
like starting to watch nationals. Like I watched the Grands live, and I'm like,
Oh, that's
made it through like
sick.
30 motos. I'm like, man, I'm really watching this shit. Like,
Yeah.
14 novice, fucking
That's
this
commitment,
kid's got
dude.
it. Like,
Dang, dude. We might see you out there in Vet Pro in the coming years.
that's what I watched. I was like, what's my class look like? Like, who would I be racing? And I'm like, fuck, man,
They're
these kids
fast,
would kill
dude.
me out there. Yeah.
It's great. Like I'm pretty sure Barry Nobles is in like that Vet Pro category, and like
Oh yeah,
that dude's an
yeah, he would
animal, dude.
kill me, man. Like I don't know. It's hard to.
That would
Yeah, I
be
don't know
sick
how-
though.
It would be fun for
Have
sure.
you been out to the track in recent years at all?
In the last couple years, I've gone out there a handful of times, but I really do need to go out there more.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is super
mean,
fun, man.
Yeah.
Something different from the day to day, you know.
Yeah,
Get the
Aaron's
heart rate
always
up a little bit.
Aaron's always trying to get me to go out there, so
Yeah, and
yeah.
he's fast as heck, dude.
yeah, he's really fast.
It's I remember being a kid and like seeing him going to the track and stuff, and like how odd that was always to me, because like, you know, you see him riding street and like it just never crossed my mind that he'd be at the track racing too.
Yeah.
And like seeing like how different of a rider he is when he is racing is crazy.
Yeah, I quit when I was around 13 or so, and it was mainly because most of the kids I was racing at nationals, including him, were like twice the fucking size of me.
Yeah.
You know, and it just was so hard. Even if I did put in some amount of training, like they just had twice the muscle on me.
Yeah, they
you
had
know?
the
And really the
genetics.
only hope that I had anywhere was like, you know, through the rhythms or on a jump.
Yep.
You know, like so.
I remember I grew up racing as well. And like, I remember being like 15, 16 and coming back because like, you know, in Colorado, we have the winter, so the off season. And I remember coming back and that same exact thing happening to me. I like walked up to the gate and like all the dudes had been like working out all year. And I was like this scrawny little dude. And I like looked around and I was like, I remember going back to my dad after that and being like, dude, I don't know like if this is my thing anymore. Like these dudes are huge. They're men now. So
Yeah. I mean, around that time, the first indoor park opened near us, so I kind of experienced that part of BMX and didn't really turn back.
The transition started.
Yeah, exactly.
Heck
like
yeah.
I was hooked from there.
That's amazing.
That was way more fun in my eyes.
So at that point in time, you kind of mentioned how small the scene was. Who were the dudes that you were riding with that were like the iconic, like local pro type guys?
Let's see. I mean, by the time our first park opened, you know, it was, I was by far the youngest, right? You know, by like, you know, maybe close to 10 or so years or so. Like I was really one of the youngest kids here for a long, long time, you know? So like everyone that I was surrounded with in BMX was always older. Like, you know, really throughout my whole time spent in it, you know, growing up. So, so like Taj and Joe were here at that time. Sandy Carson was already here. Paul Buchanan was here. Ryan Corrigan was here. This is, really almost like Road Fools 1 era,
Wow.
So that's really when Austin big time got put on the map.
Yep.
Was they came here and spent 3 or 4 days in the video, and then really from after that, like almost everybody in that video would come back and do routine trips. I mean, Robbie lived here for a while. He would come and stay for months with Taj and Joe. So these are people that you would always see everywhere, like
That's super
especially at
cool.
9th Street, I remember Ruben coming over here for the first time.
That had to be an iconic
when
moment.
he was still on Huffy.
Yeah.
And he didn't speak a lick of English. He could really only say like a few words.
Wow.
Sergio as well, like I remember meeting him for the first time, and because we're very close in age. So, 15, 16-year-old Spanish kid rocks up at 9th Street, and I'm like, who the fuck is this kid? And he's like down whipping the hip and stuff, and I'm like, wow,
I got to ride with this guy.
It could be like this too. Like,
wow, that's cool.
So yeah, I really remember all the big people coming through here.
Do you think like Road Fools 1 was the thing that was like that pivot point for people moving to Austin? Was that the thing that did it? Because like it's crazy that it went from like really not having a scene to like everybody in BMX talks about Austin, and everybody seems like they've lived here at a certain point in time now.
Totally. Yeah, I think Road Fools 1 was a big part of it.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I think what put places and things on the map back then was how much coverage the place got to a certain extent, and how much people knew about it that were in other places. Like it's pre everything. Like the pre-social. I don't know. Nobody's updating shit on a website. Like none of that.
You just get this crazy taste in a video real quick.
Exactly. Yeah, and then a lot of hearsay. Like maybe somebody from your town has been there, and all they come back saying
like the nightlife
you gotta
is great.
Fucking go, man. You have no fucking clue. Like, yeah. Austin's been it's held that stigma here. Like, I don't know. It's a very attractable place for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Like for the last 30 plus years. You know?
It is so interesting to me though. It's just like it is almost the mecca of BMX at this point in time. Like all of the most legendary people have spent time.
It's one of the longest lived places. That's for sure.
Because like obviously like California is like San Diego and all those spots, like those are kind of no-brainers because like it is what it is. The weather's great all the time, whatever. But like here, it's like the summers are so brutal and everything, but people continue to stay here and like make it happen. And it's just interesting to me. It's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I don't know, I've always felt really lucky and grateful that I've gotten to experience like, I don't know, so many different periods of the scene, almost like getting to watch it be built.
Yeah.
Like,
in fact, I
fully
think
up until what it is now.
Yeah.
And still being a part of it. It's fun.
It's crazy to see that, or from my perspective, like you've helped build the scene too. Like, is that a crazy feeling to have? Like when you step back and look at it, it's like you've helped create this, like, I don't want to say illusion, but you've helped like people understand what Austin is from the BMX perspective.
For sure. I can't take full credit, obviously. I think all those people that I've mentioned just previously, I think a lot of people are the reason why this place is so special, But obviously, I've done my best in my career to do the most I can for this city as well. It's obviously it's where I'm from, which, that is one. Not many people are born and raised here, especially not many people in the BMX scene that are currently here, So I held a different attachment for sure.
Yeah.
You
You were
know,
like
and
going out there, putting the city on your back everywhere you went.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's like, you know, from that outsider's perspective looking in, like growing up, that's what it always was. It was like, you know, at every contest you were at is Austin, Texas. And it's like,
yeah,
whoa, that's like crazy. I want to go to Austin so bad, you know?
yeah.
Just like kind of, and seeing all the clips from Ninth and all that stuff. It's so cool.
Hell yeah.
So growing up with people, you know, role models like Taj and Joe, was that when you really started to like cement yourself and your passion for BMX and thinking like, I might want to do something with this like at a higher level?
Man, I was, like I said, I mean, I was hooked from day one, all through those years, and really my intention of where I would go or what would happen from it was, I don't know, it did almost really didn't exist
Yeah.
too much because of how much I just wanted to fucking genuinely do it.
Yeah.
Like it was
You just wanted to
literally,
ride
it
your
was
bike.
literally all, when I say it was all I could think about, it really was. I mean, like through my teenage years, through my 20s, you know, like to currently, like it was just so hard for me to focus on anything else besides a fucking magazine or a video or like just paying attention to something riding related, you know? So I don't know. I knew I always wanted to figure out a way I could do it forever.
Yeah.
But it was never the reason, right? You know, like, and it, I don't know. It really did just kind of happen.
That's super
you
cool.
know, and I feel like obviously, you know, I'm lucky to have been here in that era when all those other people, you know, all those pros I was mentioning earlier were coming through here as well, you know. So Robbie's someone I've been close with my whole life. I mean, even since the race days, like
Yeah.
I knew him. You know, I had met him and Brian Foster at the Grands, like, you know,
Wow.
mid-90s type
Dang,
shit, you
that's
know. So
sick.
like when Robbie was racing like a pro, you
Yeah.
know. So I've known these guys for a long time. So like it's not surprising we're all still in relationships together.
When I think
right?
that
You
like
know?
goes a long ways, especially for people listening, right? Like, you know, so many kids want to do it for a living and they want to be sponsored, but like exactly what you just said right there is the relationships that have been for so long. Like you've known these guys that you still work with today since you were a kid,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown up in these industries, and I don't know, I just feel really grateful to still be able to work with all of these people and call them my friends, you know, and I don't know.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's special.
Heck
for
yeah.
sure.
So at 14, you got to go on your first like big road trip, correct? And that was props.
Yeah, it was either 14 or 15.
Okay.
It was, whatever it was, I was fucking scared to go, and I had to beg my fucking parents to
Really?
let me go. And it was like hands and knees type thing.
Let me ask
you
you
know?
this. You're a parent now.
Yeah.
If your son comes to you at 14 or 15 and is like, hey, I want to go on a road trip with all these like crazy dudes.
In a fucking second, would love to.
Yeah.
You know? I absolutely.
But would you be like
know?
worried at all?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I mean, I would. Yeah, I mean, I would be all for it for
Yeah,
sure. I mean,
that's
obviously, because I knew how lucky I was to have that opportunity and have it, how much it changed my life and how unforgettable that particular trip was for me. You know, it's like I'll never rob my son of those opportunities, right? You
That's
know, and
sick.
I want him to experience all that shit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's some
Um,
profound parenting advice for other people out there too. You know, it's like, dude, you got to
Yeah.
build your kids up and let them go. Cause like for your parents, like if they wouldn't have let you go, like your life could have turned out completely different. And that's a pretty crazy thing to consider.
Fucking at that time too, I mean, really, like, yeah, I mean, it could have gone a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Because, you know, ended up on a prop strip was a hell of an opportunity at that time.
Yeah.
Especially for someone at my age trying to fucking do something.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, had anybody else your age at that point in time that you're aware of gone on any of those trips? Because I've watched pretty much all those and I can't remember
not on a
somebody.
trip, really.
Yeah.
No, you know,
They like highlighted kids, but
and I think really the big part of that reason is probably just because there wasn't any. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think that there, you know, really like Scotty Kramer was like the first really young rider who came onto the scene at like 15, 16 and just like fucking turned pro.
Yeah.
Like immediately, I was at the Metro Jam where the first one that he
Wow.
rode at, like it was like the first time people saw him ride, and he won it,
Yeah.
right? And at that time, like for a 16-year-old kid to come and win Metro Jam, it was like nobody had ever seen anything like that,
Oh, I
right?
bet.
You know?
Especially
So
because like Instagram didn't exist then. So you couldn't like
no,
see like this kid doing these insane tricks, and then he just shows up and like all the dudes that are,
you
at
got
the top.
Mikey and Miron
Yeah.
and fucking just everybody's like everyone's there, right?
They're like,
Everybody,
shit, we're done.
yeah.
Who is this kid? It's over.
Yeah, and he like shit on all of them, So it was like, think about how long lived all those eras were until someone that young came on the scene. Nowadays,
Yeah, it's
there's a
commonplace
lot of
now.
young good kids. I mean,
Dude,
like
it's
that's
crazy.
I don't know. Almost all the good kids are fucking teenagers.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
in
you
their
can
early
pull up to
20s,
like any park just about anymore, and like a kid that's like, sub 16. Like, there's 2 kids in Colorado right now that are like doing like some pocket airs that are just like, we rode with them the other day, and I was riding with Matt Cordova, and this kid was doing these pocket airs, and Matt just kept looking at me just like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
Like, this shouldn't be happening, and like, it's so cool that it's a
Matt
thing.
forgets he was that kid too.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I mean, because I rode Boulder too with him at a really young age as well.
We were just talking about that before I came out here.
Yeah, it was like whenever he was on that yellow.
It was like S&M dirt bike.
Yeah, I mean, which was that was like I don't know, if you've known about Cordova for a long time, that was like really when people first started to hear about
he started going to some of the
bike,
like the
yellow
dirt
bike
bikes.
Cordova,
Yeah, he was going to like some of the do tours at that point in time, and I think that was kind of where he was cutting his teeth.
Yeah, I think
doing some of the dirt stuff, and
I think I rode there when we were filming for Chillbro or something with him, and yeah, I mean, we were both really young at that time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's a little bit younger than me.
Yeah,
so he was
like 4 years younger, I think.
Really? Okay, yeah. So he was really young.
Yeah,
at the time.
super young.
Yeah, I was
he
like,
ditched high school.
Yeah,
like I remember him texting me, and he was like, "Dude, you got to get to Boulder now."
Yeah,
and I was like a sophomore in high school. I was like, I can't
I remember
believe
showing up and like wanting to film something on the hip, and I was like, seeing him hit it. I was like, fuck, like I gotta figure out something else to film now. Like,
oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, he's
but yeah,
he's always been my favorite, man.
That's so
or
cool.
One of them for sure.
That's a sick compliment, dude. Hell yeah, he'll be stoked to hear that.
Yeah, he knows it.
Yeah,
I'm always fucking praising him any way I can. You
know? I always get jazzed like seeing you guys comment back and forth like on Instagram stuff. I'm like, that's so freaking cool, man.
I don't know. He's one of them rare specialties that don't come along too often, and need to be appreciated. You know, and like kind of is only getting better and more fine tuned, which is
he's finding his
kind of
groove.
how I want to like, do with my riding as well. So it's just kind of like I get stoked seeing other riders take that approach as well.
Yeah, I think there's something special, and like I kind of mentioned it at the beginning of this episode, but I feel like I've seen it in your riding in the last few years. Is like you're finding what you enjoy, and like you're doing what you enjoy, as opposed to like doing what you like think you have to do for the industry or whatever. You're just like, this is what I want to do now, and like there's something special to that.
Yeah.
You're like not trying to live to expectations almost.
I mean, I don't know how other people are, but it's really hard for me to step back and get out of my head to a certain extent and remind myself that it's more important for me to show people that I'm having fun and not doing the craziest thing, right? And I can kind of convince myself that is what I should be doing, right? And like beat myself up over it for not doing it, and it shows. It's like you gotta, I don't know,
it's hard to practice that. It's hard to like step back and be like, okay, I actually need to do what I enjoy, as opposed to like telling myself that's a hard thing to practice, man.
No, it is.
And I think that's
and I don't have it perfected just yet, but I've acknowledged it, and it's like I'm working on like, really like seeing other people do it like Matt helps me.
That's
Like I
sick.
really, I love seeing new footage of him and like how he's pushing himself and switching his feet up and doing fucking switch moto whips and just like how unique it is, but still how relative and relatable it is
Yeah.
to him as well. And
Yep.
that's like, that in itself is fucking difficult, to
Yep.
even think about how to get there,
Yeah. Well, it's like making riding fun again,
Yeah,
and like
it
I
is.
think that's the hardest thing. Like you've done it for more than half of your life at this point in time, probably more than half your life professionally. And like that's pretty crazy to think about. Like imagine working the same job every day for that many times. Like you're not going to be having fun doing that. And not to say you're not having fun riding bikes, but making it just as fun as it was when you were first riding. Like that's a hard thing to do. That's a chase.
Well, I think that's why I'm so conscious of it now is because of how much more I want from all of it,
Hmm.
and how much I'm not done with writing yet,
Yeah.
So I'm really trying, I want to like, how do I offer more over these next 5-10 years,
Yep.
and what's that going to look like? What am I going to do? And how's shit going to switch up again? And
Totally.
what more can I offer? I don't know, all
Yeah.
of these things,
When
and I feel like I there's a lot,
Yeah.
right? So it's just, I'm excited for that,
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to watch the progression, and it's cool to hear like how conscious you are of the growth mindset, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
hard thing to be aware of, like putting yourself in the mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna like actually grow as opposed to just staying this same way that I've been for a long time.
Yeah.
That's huge, dude. So I'll jump back to that props trip. Is that kind of what spurred your relationship with Fit? Is that kind of like what cemented it? Like you've known Robbie at this point for a while, but
Yeah, so at that time I was already on a Fit.
oh, okay.
So and it was actually my second one that I had received from them. So I was really a part of that, first or second round of Fit frames that ever came in. I was on the flow end of
That's cool.
one of those containers. And
Wow.
really like the I remember the first frame I got, I was out in Lake Paris, California for CFB. I
Whoa.
fucking couldn't even tell you what year it was. I mean, we could probably pull it up or something, but like it was a long time ago, right? And I had driven out there from here with like, a bunch of local older dudes from
Whoa.
the skate park, from my local park at the time.
Yeah, you're not old enough
So I was
to
on
drive
like a big
yet.
fucking trip at the time, and like Robbie was there obviously, and he sent me home with the bike, right? So that was a series 1,
Okay.
one of the raw ones. I think it was one of like, I mean, if people can remember, they were still trying to figure it out at that point, and I think in the seat stay they hadn't welded it together with the top tube, so
Yep.
almost all of them were breaking, and that was the one I got. So like
Oh.
I got home with it and like I had broken it, like
Just all
within, like,
jazzed about a new bike, and you
Yeah.
just break it immediately.
Yeah, which was like at that time too, I was like fucking scared to hit him up and tell him I broke it, right?
Yeah.
But I think once I heard that they were all breaking, I hit him up. He sent me another one, and that was the silver one that I had. It was, I don't know, they had fixed that problem at the time. And that was the bike I was on that trip.
Damn.
So yeah, I was
Always a part of the family.
I was part of the Fit family, like really from the beginning. Like I was on one of the frames when the very first video came out.
Whoa.
I didn't have
Yeah.
clips in it, but yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was a part of it from the beginning. I didn't get on the pro team until the Puerto Rico video
Yep.
was like my first initial.
And is that
pro
when
team
you
trip.
got your signature frame through them?
Not long after that, I think. I can't really remember honestly, but it wasn't right away.
Yeah.
And it was a slow process. Like getting picked up by like everyone at first back then was like, I don't know, it was fucking small.
Yeah.
Like
Very relationship based, who you know.
exactly. And then on the even obviously on the money end of it too.
Yeah.
But everything's cheaper back then. cost of living here was nothing like it is now. I could still get away with like living with 6 people and paying $75 a month or whatever the fuck it was.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do that anywhere.
No.
Now,
Yeah, nowhere in the country, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was making, I was able to make work.
Yeah.
From the 2 or 3 different people. It might have even just been like, I Fit and Odyssey or something. I can't remember how all of this is timed out.
Yeah.
But
do you remember what year you went pro forfeit?
It was my 18th birthday.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember Robbie called me and invited me on that trip like a couple days after my birthday.
Yeah.
And I was fucking
losing
tripping,
like dang, what a sick 18th
at that time,
birthday.
Like I don't know, I'm fully in it, right?
Yeah.
And like almost everybody a part of Fit is like the only people I look up to.
Yeah.
So like, being hit up and being like, okay, you're getting on a trip with Mikey and Van and BF and Edwin and fucking Bob and Wiz and everybody else that's on that trip. It's just like, okay, here we go. Like, yeah, this
crazy.
Shit's about to get real, right?
Especially at that age, getting to travel with those dudes who are like forever influential and timeless. Like, I'm sure like you probably learned a lot getting to hang with those dudes at such a young age. I got thrown right
into the lion's den.
Oh,
dude.
I bet,
dude. Especially back then, man. Like, yeah, it was
being the young dude on the trip.
Introduction. Like, I really learned a lot on that trip.
Yeah.
And how to handle myself around those people and what I could and couldn't say and how I should act and fucking, yeah, different times.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a lot more leniency nowadays for pulling a kid into the van and just how normalized it is. Whereas back then it was like, what the fuck even is this? And what are you doing? You're gonna fuck up the trip. Like,
yeah, why are we bringing this little kid with us?
Yeah, like, you're gonna fuck the trip up, dude. Like,
dang.
We're in Puerto Rico
for
12 fucking days, and you thought it was a good idea to bring an 18-year-old kid. Like, that's literally was everybody.
Like, we can't even bring him to the bar with us.
Like, there was 2 different, literally down to there was 2 different vans on the trip, and it was like, everyone dope fucking rode in one van, and then it was like, I think, the filmer or something and a couple other people rode in the other van. And I rode in that van. It was like the cool van
like
and the fucking dry van.
Dude.
And I think I only rode in that other van like 1 or 2 times on the whole fucking trip, dude.
They
wouldn't let me in
that
shit, dude. I slept on the floor the whole trip. I got buckets of water fucking thrown on me on that trip. And it's all in the video, you know? Like, you can go back and watch that shit.
Well, it's fun to like hear the context to that for people who have seen it. And if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, go find it.
Yeah, that shit doesn't happen nowadays. Yeah. Like, probably when it should,
Yeah.
Like,
well, I feel like I'm
glad I experienced that shit.
Those are humbling moments, dude. Like, you need that sometimes as a kid because, like, especially now with how good kids are, like, they're going on trips and, like, you get to see the behind the scenes stuff or whatever, and you kind of know how to act, but, like, you got to be brought up to speed in those types of ways, I think.
Yeah, and at 18, I was drinking at that time already. Obviously, we were in Puerto Rico. Drinking age is at 18.
Yeah.
So that was like completely chill and normal for me to like be drinking down there, So you can imagine how many times I stepped over the line by like after having a few.
Yep.
And like saying the wrong thing around.
And those dudes probably just humbled you immediately.
Dude. Yeah.
Which is funny to think because, like, they're not all, like, no. Foster is a little older than you, but, like, Mikey's not that much older at that point in time. Like, but I'm sure it felt like those dudes were, like, these huge, like, old dudes at the point in time.
And they're all legends. They had all made it past that point. Of whatever I was dealing with, So it was like, I had to fucking earn it, and I don't know. I'm glad I did, right? Like, yeah.
That's so cool. Do you feel like after that trip, some of those dudes kind of like took you under their wing and like kind of mentored you?
For sure.
Yeah.
Obviously,
they're like, he made it through
obviously, I ended up having lifelong relationships with all of these people, and me and Mikey, it ended up traveling all over the world together and did all sorts of great things, you know? So it's like, yeah, I mean,
That's
obviously there's no hard feelings in any of it.
yeah.
I'm more or less just, I'm a little bit appreciative of like how they all handled it, because I felt like it was the last era of like
Being able to do that stuff.
fucking being treated like that.
Yeah.
Like
It's like hazing and
not having to be judged super fucking severely after for doing it, right? You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, they still loved you. I want to talk a little bit. You just touched on like traveling all over the world with Mikey. Do you have a specific trip that stands out to you as like one of your favorites with him?
I mean, we went to South Africa together for 3.5 weeks in
Wow.
2007. I mean, that alone was just such a special trip because of where we were. Not to mention, you know, I mean, we drove from Johannesburg to Cape Town, which is damn near the whole country. You know, we drove through an area called the Transkei, which is fucking sketchy. It's just crazy dirt roads for, you know, probably an 8-9 hour
Wow.
drive, and
Did you have like a
it's really
guide?
sketchy. Yeah, I mean, we had tons of locals from there.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, kind of, you know, yeah, guiding through us the whole trip or whatever. But it goes through tons of farmland, and you have to drive super slow on all these roads, and there's tons of cattle. So a lot of these cattle are all over the roads. I mean, you'll drive up to 200 fucking cows. Like a guy
Whoa.
just herding like 200 cattle on the road, you know, and it's like, it's their livelihood. So if you hit the fucking cow, you're fucked. So it was just a lot of tension. You know, there's no lights on any of these roads. So you have to do the whole drive in the daytime. If your car fucks up, you're fucked. And it was a lot of
Dang.
like, if this happens, you're fucked. If this
Yeah.
happens, like, I remember going into it like, whoa, this
This,
we could be fucked out here. Like,
this
we
is a
could be
lot
pretty
different than
fucked.
home.
Like, yeah, we're just like trying to drive to the next skate park, you know?
Whoa, that's crazy.
So obviously, I mean, like, yeah, it was, you know, that was a very special trip to do with all the people that we were with. Sims was on that trip. Um, yeah. But really any trip with Mikey was great. He is really always been my favorite rider and the person that I look to up to most, and tried to replicate everything in life, you know, down to how I acted and how I fucking dressed, how I walked, how I set my bike up, where I put my stickers.
So
Like,
cool.
I don't know. I don't think that there was anybody that like grew up in BMX in Aiken's fucking glory years that like didn't 100% try to copy him
Yeah.
at a certain point, you know?
Yeah. He had it, dude. He
I
had it.
fucking fully, yeah.
And I remember just like the clips, like you could always tell when you guys were riding together too, because like you guys would kind of just be like riffing off of each other. Like, and it was cool to watch clips from that era of like just seeing like the back and forth, because like you would unlock something, then he would unlock something, and like then one of you would spin it. And like it was just so cool to see that.
It was, and it was, like I'm saying, it was very special for me to be a part of that. But even like just how the gap, I mean, he was just so on another level. Like it was almost so fun to follow him, because he would just make whatever you were doing look like fucking shit, and you'd just be paying attention to him, you know. And like, I don't know, he was just so fucking special that, yeah, uncomparable, right? Like
Yeah.
there's never been another person that you can be like that was like that, you
Yeah.
know. Like
It's
it's
all
just,
time, dude.
yeah. So I'm just grateful I got to spend the amount of time I did with him in his career,
Yeah.
you know, and mine as well. I mean, he shaped a lot of how I am and what I do and
That's
all
so
of those
sick.
things, you
Heck
know.
yeah,
So
dude.
yeah.
Well, as we kind of get into like your professional career now, how many years have you been at a pro level now?
I've always been told that you kind of go off of your first professional contest that you've entered, right?
Yep.
Um, And if I were to go off of that, that was the FBM T1 contest here in Austin, and I think that was 2002.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
When it all first started, could you have imagined 20 years later?
No, absolutely not. But the question I find myself asking myself the most now is like, how do I replicate a similar time period moving forward?
Yeah.
Like how can I realistically do this professionally for another 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to have to do to get me there?
Yeah.
And it's because it's going to have to be some changes, right?
Yeah.
Fully in life. I mean, health, fucking, everybody knows it doesn't get easier as you get older, right? And if you want to still, especially if you want to still feel young in it and be as motivated as I am mentally and transfer that physically.
It's really hard to do, man. Like,
yeah.
it's amazing, like, that you're still doing it at 36. And like, it's cool to hear that, like, you're looking forward at the next decade and saying, cool, like, I want to continue doing this, and that you're putting the pieces together and saying, like, okay, what can I sacrifice? Where do I have to sacrifice to keep pouring into the thing that I love? That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I'm finding a lot of inspiration from outside athletes and outside sports that are, I don't know, guys. Look at a guy specifically like Kelly Slater.
Yep.
I mean, I can't really compare myself to him at all, but on a level that he's 50 and he just won a world surf title.
Yeah.
And what has allowed him to still be able to do what he loves to do at the age that he's at, and
it's amazing, like, how much hope that kind of gives too when you see somebody, a figure like that is 50 years old, and you're like, wait a second, like, I thought the lifespan of this was 40 years or what it is, and it's easy to get in your head when you're looking at those numbers on how old you are, and you're like, okay, like, I might not have much longer, and then you see that happen, you're like, oh, yeah. I'm delirious. Like, he's 50 and like he's not slowing down, clearly.
Yeah, and there's no denying that what he's doing is really like much more strenuous than what I'm trying to create my life to be. You know? So it's like it really comes to like, well, if he can fucking do it, I can do it type of thing, right? And then you just start really everything, like, I mean, Joe Rich has always been a huge motivator for me. Really, a lot of the older people in BMX who are still doing it and pushing themselves. Dennis McCoy, fucking,
it's crazy.
He's 52, 53. The video of him 3 and the 13 stair, and
dude,
it's like I wouldn't do that. I don't think. Like I really was like trying to picture myself at the top of them stairs. Like, I don't think I would fucking do this.
It's funny you say that because I watched that like 10 times and I'm like, dude, I thought the same thing. I'm like, I can't think that, like, that doesn't sound fun to me.
No, like, but it's hard for me to not look at things like that and people like him and not just be like, fuck yeah. Like, I want it.
Yeah,
like,
it fuels you.
I need a piece of that. Yeah. Like, if I can fucking do that in 20 years, like, I've done what I've wanted to.
Totally. I have a friend back home, and I've told a couple people this story recently, but he's 59, and he grew up racing BMX, but he stopped riding BMX for a really long time. And about 3 years ago, he picked a BMX bike up again, and he's learning freestyle stuff now. And he's 59 years old, and I've seen this dude take slams, man, and he just keeps coming back for it. And it's the same thing. Like, I just turned 30 this year, and I was like, dreading that number because like I was like, I'm over the hill, man, it's done. And I started riding with him a lot more, and I was like, 59, like, that's bizarre to think about, right?
And I'm sure he's realizing in his journey that it's what's keeping him young, and there's nothing comparable to that. You gotta I mean, you can only like do that for yourself, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's all in your head. He
yeah,
always says that. He's like, dude, if you think that you're old, you're gonna feel old.
yeah, man.
And if you don't think about it, then you feel young. And like you see that in so many people who are, in their elderly years, like the people who slow down a lot are the ones who like, fall down and get hurt or whatever.
I've seen it happen to myself.
Yeah.
I mean, like I can really like, I mean, if I go too long without doing certain things I know I need to be doing,
Yep.
it affects me fucking way more than it did even last year.
Sure.
Yeah,
it starts
So
compounding every year, I feel like.
Yeah.
You've been one of the dudes that like I feel like I've seen for the better part of the last decade. One of the first guys that I've really seen like actually like working out and training. You don't really talk about it too much on like Instagram or anything, but you're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm weird with Instagram just in general, and in the sense that the way that I've always really ran it is to kind of keep my life out of it.
Yeah.
Outside of what it is.
Yeah, what you
I
have
have
to share.
the page for.
Yeah.
Is that the right way? Probably not.
I don't know if there is
but
a right way.
Yeah, it's just how I do it. But I've been in the gym on and off, really for the last 10 years or so. What got me in there was rehabbing a fibula break that was really bad, and I needed to, really get it as strong as I could correctly, and I started working at this place called 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙍 in downtown Austin. They had a physical therapist with a trainer kind of in-house, and I could work in between both of them.
Wow.
And which is a pretty normal process nowadays, but
yeah.
That's kind of what got me into it. I noticed like how much quicker they were able to get me back on the bike, how much stronger I felt getting back onto it. From there, I would only really go in and train like kind of a couple months out before a contest or so. And that kind of gradually led into me just kind of consistently going, and that's where I'm at now. I go 2 days a week. I've always tried to work with a trainer just to be as efficient as I can with it.
Yep. That's super wise.
I feel like if I don't, I don't know, I won't be doing it correctly. And not only that, I'll probably hurt myself because I don't know the boundaries I'm supposed to stay in.
Yep.
The amount of reps, all this shit, So I really try and have someone that knows what they're doing watching me while I'm doing this stuff, just so I'm not working backwards, only forwards.
That's super smart.
So
are you pairing that up at this point in time with like any diet stuff, or is that stuff you're kind of looking at like down the road? Like, okay, I might need to start incorporating that, like as you talk about, the next 10 years.
Definitely moving forward. Definitely a lot of different things I'm researching now and trying to figure out what is going to be that plan.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fairly healthy now. But like I said, I think there's always things that all of us could be doing that could take us to that next level if we wanted to. And that's more what I'm interested in because that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we have this place up the road. It's called 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙍𝙍, and it's kind of like I wouldn't even know how to describe it, but basically they have their own doctors in this place, and you can go and get your own supplements and whatnot.
Like a holistic type.
It's a full holistic place.
Yeah.
Like very holistic approach, right? I'm actually going next week to like meet with one of their doctors and like kind of just get a full rundown test of, blood work, body work, get a lot of different things sampled and whatnot and see things that I've never really done before.
Yeah.
Seeing if I'm deficient in anything, seeing if there's anything that I'm eating that's fucking me over that I
Yeah.
should be taking out? What's helping me? Do you need more of this? You know, and I think that there's going to be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Stuff that you're not even aware of, you know? And I think that's a cool approach to take too, is like pairing up that holistic approach with the Western medicine, like kind of finding like some synergy between the two of those and say like, cool, like, you know, when I get hurt or whatever, I can go over here. And like when my stomach hurts or when I'm too sleepy, I can go over here. Like
all of these things.
Being able to just like really like elevate the way you're operating is super rad.
Yeah, all of those things. So I'm, you know, like I said, I mean, I haven't started that process, but I'm really excited to, and I feel like I'll see a lot of benefit from, you know, kind of exploring what my options are.
Yeah,
you know,
no
I
doubt.
definitely don't think it could be doing any harm. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the holistic approach. I feel like that's something that is kind of intimidating to a lot of people, or like off-putting, just because it's so different than what we've been taught our whole lives. But
Totally.
I think there's a lot of value in that, especially when you look at other cultures around the world that, you know, are super healthy. It's like, well, they're kind of using this, you know,
Yeah.
a little bit of both. So hybrid methods. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've never been more focused on like trying to achieve like this best person of what I can potentially be, I
Yeah.
think, because I've never been self-conscious about trying to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
It's super cool. I just like I've said it already, but I think it's cool that you have a focus right there right now of like, how can I better myself a little bit every day? That's huge, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something I think people lose sight of a lot. So
For sure, man. It's fucking dark.
yeah,
You can be. It's hard to not to be in dark places sometimes.
It really is,
you know,
dude.
for a lot of different people.
Yep.
And it's the cold reality of this world we're in right now,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
Without
crazy
getting
freaking
too fucking
world.
deep, you
Yeah.
know. But like, you know, I know I'm not the only one struggling with all sorts of different things, and you know, that's I think that's why I've never been more motivated to like, hopefully, fucking get out of that. You
Yeah.
know? Like I need to like, what? There's another route. You
Yeah.
know? Like what is it?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure,
yeah.
dude. Well, I guess like this is a good tangent to take. Like, how do you at this point in time kind of like refill your cup when you are feeling down? You know, like what is your approach to that kind of stuff? Like when you're having a bad day or whatever, like how do you re-energize yourself?
For me personally, I'm more someone who kind of needs to disconnect to a certain extent, you
Mhm.
know, and really, I don't know, do it on my own terms type of thing.
Sure.
You know, so if it's a bad day, I'll normally, you know, just kind of be on my own to sort things out for a certain amount of time, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think helps for where I'm at now.
Yep.
You know, I'm in a more quiet part of town where it's easier for me to get away if I want to.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Are you doing like any sort of meditation or anything like that? Or are you just like kind of just taking some time
Practicing.
back? Yeah.
Practicing.
Heck yeah.
You know, and it's, I don't know, I think for anyone who is going through that part of meditation or, you know, and exploring it can be just frustrating
Yeah.
more than anything, you know, because you're like, you want to tap into it, right? You know, and like, I'm here,
Yep.
you know, but I'm fucking not.
Yeah,
you
especially
know?
when you have a lot going on in your life or you're stressed out and your brain's going crazy and you're trying to quiet that down. Like your brain, your subconscious is going to do anything to like
Totally.
get back to the front and like make some noise. So yeah, the practicing piece is very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing everything. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. You know, I've started, you know, seen a therapist
That's
in the
sick.
last year or so.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen 2 different ones, but I've been with the one that I'm at currently for probably 4 or 5 months or so.
That's awesome.
All first things for me,
Yeah.
right? You know,
And I think that's really cool too, like to be able to talk about that because it's like never too late to go talk to somebody. And like, it's not a bad thing either. It's so
No.
good to like dude, we keep so much shit bottled up, and like you never realize how much is there until you go talk to somebody and you're just like, holy shit, dude. Like you walk out of that room and you're a new
trips
person.
me out, man.
Yeah.
It's you never know how much you need some shit like that until you fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
It becomes
or at least
addicting.
That's how it was for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, okay, like this is gonna help.
That's super cool.
Like,
was it something like as you were going into, approaching that stuff, where you kind of like put off by the idea of it? Because I know for most people it's something that's so intimidating.
Yeah, I think it was just, I don't know what the words for it would be. I guess it's just I think you're just very naive to it, right? To a certain extent, like, oh, I don't need that, and that mixed with what I'm sure a lot of people are telling themselves too, like, oh, the whole get over it.
Yeah.
You just fucking,
you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Yeah, whatever you're telling yourself, you'll continue telling yourself for a long time until you can't tell yourself that shit no more, right?
Well, it's hard. I think that stuff's so built into us from like a societal place too.
Quit being a pussy, man. That's a real thing, man. Like, yeah. It's okay to be a pussy sometimes.
In fact, it's really like, dude, being emotional is not a bad thing.
It's good to be tough, but it's okay to be a pussy too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it makes you more compassionate and genuine to others too, when you can like actually be emotional and like be empathetic, and you can't be that way if you're not, doing that for yourself. So
totally.
That's super sick.
Being a parent as well is obviously, trying to be the best father I can for my son is obviously really important to me. So I feel like, me stepping out of my comfort zone and a lot of those things that I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's
untraining yourself really to be different than how you've been forever.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's cool. Like that just sets a precedent too for like, your son going forward. Like that's huge for kids in these years that they're in right now, like to see that you're doing that, they might not be necessarily aware, but they're aware, like energy is a real thing. So it's like, it's cool to be like, yo, I'm doing hard shit. Like you can do hard shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, if you would have told me even 5 years, I mean, I was always very scared of, the child, having a kid. I was, probably the most scared really. And like, someone who even convinced myself when I was younger, it was like, I'll never fucking do
really?
this. Like I remember saying that, probably even when I met my wife, like this is just something I'm not into.
Yep.
Like I want other things out of life, right? And then when we got to a point to where that wasn't the case anymore, right? Like, so it's like, I don't know.
Growth is cool, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is, like you start to learn more about yourself and you're growing, and it's cool to hear that piece of it. And like, I'm sure up until the point of like seeing your son, you were probably still pretty scared.
Dude, put it this way. The first diapers I've ever changed were his. Like, dang. That's like, I mean, I was, I have a half sister, but she didn't come into my life until I was 13, and it just wasn't super hands-on.
Yeah.
And we had, she has a different dad, so we really didn't connect and become a lot closer until recent years.
Sure.
Honestly, so like, I wasn't around for as much as her baby years as I probably could have or should have, you know. So it's just, I just never had that experience, So it's like, I mean, the last 2 years have been the biggest fucking learning experience of my entire life. On top of everything else that's been happening outside of having him. It's just
real life is going on, and then you're trying to make sure that the human that you've created is safe and sound while you're learning how to like deal with it all.
It's intense, man. Life is.
I feel like everybody I've ever talked to that has kids also has like a new perspective on life too with their parents, where they're like, Dude, now I'm realizing my parents also had no fucking clue what was going on, you know?
I'm really realizing that shit.
Oh, I bet, dude. Yeah, you're just like, wow, I kind of have more respect because like you did what you could, you know? Like that's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, there's everybody, most, for me, I want to do it differently, right? So it's like, you know, righting a lot of wrongs that I experienced, and how do I make sure a lot of this shit doesn't happen?
Yeah,
you know,
that's incredible.
and paving like a fully different road for him than I had for myself, and I don't
breaking
know, that's
those,
where it's difficult. You know, like that's, you know, yeah,
breaking the traumatic experiences, man. It's
Totally,
funny.
man.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not funny, but it's a coincidence because I was just having this conversation with my wife like a week ago. Because like we're talking about having kids right now, and it's like that's what I told her. I was like, dude, there's some stuff from like my childhood that I can still feel in me, and that I don't want to incorporate into like my child's life. And I would really like to get those things not necessarily solved, but start working on them before I want to bring a kid into the world, because I don't want them, like you're saying, to experience some of that traumatic stuff that's unnecessary, man.
They were deal breakers for me.
Yeah.
Like it was like we'll either, okay, like I think once, you know, once we decided that, okay, yes, we are going to try to have a baby, there were a few things that needed to be lined up no matter what.
Yep.
Before we even fucking started once trying.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and I'm proud that we followed through with what we needed to, you know. Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, like there's, I don't know, this and this needed to be taken care of before this person comes into this world, and none of this affects his life whatsoever. You
and
know?
I think like,
and we can just fucking move forward from here.
Make some
know?
beautiful shit happen.
Exactly. Like
if you have the luxury of like, you know, saying like, okay, we're planning to have a kid, I think that's a grown-up thing to do. You know, like if you have a kid that just comes along, like it's hard to do that, but you can still do it, you know. But like being able to have that foresight and say, okay, let's get ahead of this a little bit, and like let's make this human's life really freaking cool.
Yeah. So. It was, I mean, it was very important to me, and everything leading up to that, I mean, I fucking made sure that shit wouldn't happen.
That's sick,
years
dude.
leading up to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like 100% that shit was not gonna happen.
That's so cool.
Like an accident.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It never mattered how fucking drunk I was or whatever, you know? Like, I could always, I always knew not to fuck that up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like from day one.
Good to
like,
be smart
really,
about that.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, props to you and massive respect for like the amount of growth you've done in that arena. Cause I think that's sick, dude.
Well,
like
thank you.
Just being being aware is really hard to do in that space. So like
it's the first step.
Yeah.
You know, which is like tells you how much more I have ahead of me, right?
Yeah.
Now I've got to like, I'm aware of it. Now I've got to figure out what the process is going to look like. And then I have to execute.
Yeah.
And then carry it out over the next.
The follow through,
you know, yes. It's like, I'm excited, and, you know, it's very motivational for me personally, you know, and I don't know.
Is it carrying over to like the writing stuff too? Like that's motivating you over there too
100%.
now?
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Everything is, you know, yeah.
It's like filling that cup up, which is sick.
Yeah, that's you haven't even really started to like reap the benefits of it just yet.
Yeah.
You know, really, like, I mean, once I have this place to ride that is just gonna be accessible out my back door, and I can just act upon an idea quickly, there's no denying that it's not going to better my craft.
Yeah.
You know, and just having a place that's as accessible as this, and as professionally built as it will be, just, I mean.
When I think talking about like all these other things outside of being on the bike or the working out, like all the culmination of all the things that you're working on, like I think it's hard for most people to have that perspective of like all of these things are aiding me in the thing that I am the most passionate about. like they're all building blocks, right? And like you're saying right now, you're like, I haven't even begun to reap the benefits. But
Yeah.
some people like start out on a journey like that and they're like, this isn't even helping me anywhere. And like, it's taking so much time. And it's like, just be confident in the fact, like you're talking about, it's like, you know, it's coming. You
Yeah.
know, you're doing the hard work and that the reward will follow because you're putting in the time to, you know, better yourself
Yeah.
in other arenas outside of the bike. I think that's so sick to hear.
Yeah. I mean, you have to trust your process for sure, you know?
Where do you think for you that mindset came from? Is that something that's like new to you? Is like kind of trusting that process and going through it? Or have you kind of always been doing that with BMX from the beginning?
It's something that I think it's always been with me a little bit, but I'm starting to embrace the aspect of the mindset of all of it more and like how to implement it more into day-to-day life than
Yeah.
not just riding.
Sure.
you
You're
know?
kind of dissecting it and saying, okay, it worked for me here.
Yeah.
How can I apply it over here?
Yeah, because that's, I don't know, I'm looking at it more from a full package perspective. Like how can I don't know, how can I better myself mentally to then be able to better myself physically to then be able to show it in my craft,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And working backwards from it, you know? And that's a process that I've never taken before, you know?
It's hard to do. I mean, I always kind of describe this kind of stuff like building a house, right? Like
Yeah.
you can build a house, but if you don't build a good foundation, like the house is kind of wobbly. So then you get on the top floor and you're like, ooh, this is not it. So you have to tear the house back down and like rebuild the foundation.
Yeah, especially mentally for me, right? You know, like trying to fine tune myself mentally is only like a recent journey for me, you know, and it's like, it's probably the part that like takes the most time to fix,
Yeah.
you know? So,
especially because you have all these learned behaviors that you've been doing since
Yeah.
you were probably a child, you know?
Exactly. And that's
So-
why they're so ingrained in all of us, you
Yeah.
know? But I think once you do figure some of these things out, I think it's inevitably what gives you the most growth long term,
Mhm.
right? You know, so like I'm saying, like if you trust your process and where it's going to take you, you know, you'll end up there.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure, dude.
And I'm just on my fucking road right now.
I love
you
it.
know,
It's
like,
so freaking cool to
yeah.
hear that. So all of that stuff, are you planning for like next year doing filming projects? Are you looking at contests? Is there anything that you have your eye on? Or are you kind of just like cruising down the road, seeing what comes?
We're starting the ramp here in like just a few weeks, so we're really close to that. I've got 2 different filming projects that I'm going to be working on, you know, almost immediately to it being finished.
On the ramp?
On the ramp,
Sick.
yeah. The first one being for Cult, so the first thing that anybody sees from the ramp will be like,
Awesome. And
you
is it
know,
just a you thing? Or are you going to have some people come out here? Or do you not want to allude to it yet?
man, we're still in the whole process of all of it in planning and figuring out, you know, really what we want from all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know just yet, but I mean, this whole project, so much has gone into it thus far. It's so much money and time that I know that whatever the first thing people see from it needs to be
It needs to reflect it.
yeah, exactly. So, I'll make sure it fucking happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I'm so excited to see how that comes together.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, the focus right now is more on the build because obviously that's pretty
Yeah,
important.
has to get done
you know?
before you can actually focus on the
Totally.
filming.
I would love to be competing more, man. I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that, you know, they would love to see the Vans bowl events
Oh,
come
yeah.
back, you know? Those were, you know, that was the last contest series that I was a part of. Really, everybody was a part of that, you know. I think that's the last time people were competing the most,
Yeah.
you know, is when
When it's such a
that
wide
series
variety
lived.
of people too, right? Like,
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, they were doing 4 or 5 events internationally throughout the year, you know, championships, all the shit, you know, and it's a shame because obviously since it's left, really like that style of event has left with it,
Yep.
because nothing else like it existed and nothing like it has existed since.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I went to the Vans contest in Huntington Beach over the summer.
Yeah, that one looked like it was pretty fun.
Super fun. Very fun to ride.
It was insane watching your clips, Dovey's clips. Like, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like, very cool style of event for sure. Just seeing all those different style of riders and how they handle the different obstacles on that course.
It was such a progressive course. Like, seeing it before anybody rode it, I was like, that's a really weird course. Like, I don't know how fun that would be. And then the contest, I was like, whoa, like that was actually way more fun to watch than contests I've seen in recent years. Like,
that was I woke up the day of qualifying at that contest like, I hope I can beat 5 people. Like, if I can beat 5 fucking people out of this whole group,
that's a win.
I'll be pretty happy. Cause I've never felt more like whoa, this is crazy.
There were some heavy hitters, dude.
I don't know. Yeah, you're out there trying to make sense of what to do on these street obstacles compared to Felix and Garrett and Chad and Dennis and Brock and like everybody else. I don't know. I think everybody knows that, I mean, I can ride some street, but like, the double peg down and up, and it's not going to go too much more than a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not doing like the
had
bar
to fucking
in
think,
ice.
like, how differently can I ride this course than everybody else?
Yeah.
And like, try and figure out
think
my
that's
own
cool,
shit to
though.
do, which was cool. Everybody took that approach, right? It was just like, I don't know. I would have loved if it was a bowl, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully we see those make a comeback.
I would love it, man.
And they're such good spectator events compared to like the old Dew Tour formats or whatever, because it is a bowl and like people are going so fast and
yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
It's an important part of what we do, and it's how they showcased it was awesome.
For sure.
It would be rad to see it come back for sure.
Let's keep crossing our fingers.
Yeah.
So you're like a unique dude when it comes to like the contest and the filming because your film projects are always outstanding, but you're also really well at placing highly at contests. Do you have a preference between the two? Like which one you prefer to do?
Really enjoy them kind of equally.
Okay.
For different reasons, obviously, because they're two different things. But I think first and foremost, I like to put pressure on myself to do well, and I like putting myself in situations and me knowing what I have to do to do well.
Yeah, live up to your expectation.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I've been doing it long enough, and I've been doing enough events, and I've filmed enough video parts to really just kind of understand the formula of what needs to be done to execute, and on both ends of that, and there's nothing more rewarding really, than finishing a video part or winning a contest, like those are just I don't know, understanding the hard work that goes into achieving the end result of doing something like that.
It's the process again.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's why we do this to a certain extent, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's super cool. Talking about video parts, do you have a specific one that you've worked on to date that's like your most favorite?
I think I talked about this recently with a couple of different people, but I feel like the part that I worked the hardest and the longest on was the Etnies part. I obviously grew up, watching the first 2 videos pretty religiously and knowing that those will be videos that are in everyone's top 10 for many years moving
Yeah.
forward and whatnot, so
The
it's
bar's
just,
set high with those videos.
yeah, I knew that just the opportunity of having a part in one was, for a BMX rider is huge,
Yeah.
and not to mention I had never worked with 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙀𝘿 at that time, and he was someone who I really wanted to be on the other side of his lens,
Yeah.
just because I thought the way that he creates videos and movies is, I don't know, it complements my writing
Yeah.
for sure. Like we work really well together.
I love that. I love that you have like that perspective on dudes that you like to work with on filming projects and
Yeah.
stuff. I talked to Adam about this a little bit the other day on his podcast, and we talked a little bit about like, how overlooked I think a lot of times that like the filmers and the creators are that aren't the writers, and how important those guys are. Like maybe from the writer's perspective, you're looking at those guys, but most people who are consuming the media aren't looking at like, oh, who filmed this? How can I get more of this guy's stuff? And
Totally.
like, I would love to see a shift to people looking a little more at like, hey, looking at Mike's work and being like, oh, that's cool. What else has he worked on? Because I like his style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always like to be as hands-on as possible in a filming project, if I can, with the filmer, down to, hopefully seeing a full timeline of everything before any editing is done.
Sure.
And working very closely with the filmer on a song, like probably to a kind of annoying standpoint, because not every writer's like that, right?
Yeah.
Some people don't give a shit what any of it, just
Yeah.
here's the footage,
Yeah.
do your
I did the
thing,
writing, you do your part.
Yeah, I mean, whereas like even, down to 10, 15 parts I've filmed ago, like I always wanted to be there like when they were making it and
Yeah.
stuff, like I would, like the first Empire video, I was over Joel's shoulder, like in his
I love
room,
that.
like, no, fucking take that out, cut it up, like make this shorter, like not like I'm not, coaching people
Yeah.
now or anything, like,
But like, yeah, you're
I love to
aiding
be
in the
very a part
creative-
of the process, right?
Yeah.
Like you work so hard together creating it that it's fun to be there in the end of it too.
Yeah. I think that's sick. I always look at like musicians and like how they're in the studio and like they're always working with the producers, and I think like that's something that has kind of not carried over in BMX, and I love to hear that like that's kind of the way you like to do it. So
yeah, and it's, I don't know, obviously it makes you feel more attached to the end result, right? Because a lot of almost everything that it's the way that you wanted it to be,
Yep.
right? Like you directed this from the back a
and
little
it's
bit,
reflecting
like,
who you are too.
yeah, exactly. That's the other. I mean, like, yeah, I always prefer to at least be an artist, like in a song where like I fuck with both of those.
Yeah.
And, like generally I know the words to all the songs. Like I don't know, like
That's huge.
I don't like to, go all that route and then fuck it up on
a song.
something is,
Yeah.
It's,
Well, because that is like the make or break thing, I feel
It's-
like a lot of times.
yeah, and you got to fine tune the whole thing.
Yeah.
With how much work goes into a 2-3 year project, you have to fucking execute it 100%.
Has to be beautiful.
Yeah.
So talking about music and like how much the song creates a video part, like what are you listening to when you're writing contests or out filming? Does that change?
Competing, it's almost always something heavy.
Okay.
Right? Like it's and usually it's like a Slayer song normally
Hell
is
yeah.
what
Something
I compete with.
fast-paced,
Like I ride to Expendable Youth a lot when I'm competing. Riding, it can be everything. A normal skate park day, it can go anywhere from rap, country, reggae, fucking all sorts of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that's kind of how I am just with music in general.
Do you find that it like influences how you're writing, what you're listening to?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then I bounce around in my playlist, like going off based like how I'm feeling in the session.
Totally.
Right? You know, like session's dying down a little bit. I need to pick me up a little bit. I need to go over to the bowl. I need something a little faster,
Yep.
you know, for however many songs, you know,
That's
like,
super cool.
yeah.
Very intentional with the selection.
Totally. But I do really like listening to music when I ride. I feel like I am someone who
Always has the
kind of
headphones.
benefits from it. You know, it
Yeah.
does kind of take me into this other little zone where is good for me.
Yeah.
You know, I get motivated from music for sure.
Totally. Do you prefer riding with the headphones or like a external speaker, or does it not really matter?
The headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of in your own world,
Yeah.
unplugged from
Yeah.
everybody.
And that's I really like to stay moving when I'm riding. You know, like if I sit more than 5 minutes in the circle of people at the spot,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna fucking stay there.
Yep.
You know, so like
It's a vortex, man.
I really like to show up to the park and, you know, get warmed up and stay there, you know, for as long as I can.
Sure.
So a lot of people know me as like not talking a whole lot at the park.
It's business,
you know, like
man.
just like I kind of try to stay moving, you know, and if I do, it'll just be for a little bit. And like
Yeah.
I know how much time I have before the 10-man starts to freeze up, you
Yep,
know? Like I
yep.
got to keep the fucking blood flowing, man. Like
That's
really yeah.
So talking about the video parts and stuff like that, do you have a way you like to consume videos? Like, you know, you come from an era of like the VHS tapes and the DVDs, and now it's all digital. Do you miss like the DVDs at all, the hard copies?
I'm someone who still realizes the importance of a full-length project, you know, regardless of where it lives, I guess. You know, I realize the DVD is a dying thing at this point. The DVD is a VHS at this point.
Yeah, it's a dinosaur
it's a
now.
fucking laser disc or something, you know, like so, you know, it wherever it ends up, you know, digital download, like, you know, I think it's still important for companies, teams to invest into these 20, 30, 40-minute projects, you know, even if it's once every couple years,
Yeah.
to just do something a little bit more than the everyday trip, right?
Yeah.
You know, like there's just no denying that formula hasn't always worked, you know, and I think that we're still seeing it really all throughout action sports and every industry, like people still entertaining that route to a certain extent, you know?
The longer
like,
format, just I feel like those are more timeless.
You
know?
need it. It's always going to be a part of what we have and what we do, you know? And you can't just ignore the fact that it's not important and like, oh, okay, we can dispose of these, you know, like we're all right without these. Like, no, we kind of need to fucking still do this.
I mean, I find myself going back into my stash of DVDs all the time because I'm like, I love the stuff that is the 30+ minutes, you know, and like you can't find some of it online anyway. So you're like digging through these old collections and it's like, there's not enough of that coming out anymore. I feel like to like feed the itch, you know, for some of the older guys, I guess. I don't know if the younger kids are craving it. I would assume they are. Maybe they just haven't seen enough of it.
That's part of what it is, you know. The thing that worries me really is like, you know, if you continue to follow some of these trends for a longer period than they've already existed, then how much it'll just never come back.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the bowl events are kind of similar to me in that sense. You know, like we've been 3 or 4 years without them, to where people just think that it's normal without them, and now, you know, we don't need them. What we haven't had them? Why do we need them moving forward?
Well,
why is it important to invest into this if nobody has?
The people at the companies aren't paying attention to it, you know,
it's already
why
been
would
forgotten
they?
about, you know, and we can't, that's not good.
No.
You know, and if the videos get to there too, you know, from companies, you know, trying to convince themselves of the same things, then we've all shot ourselves in the foot, haven't we? You know, and it's like,
because that's what drives the industry forward, right? It's like those types of projects, those types of contests. Like, I feel like those are I mean, I remember for myself being a kid, the first full length video that I watched, I was like, dude, this is like, I wanted more of that. I craved more of that. And same thing with contests. Like you go to one of those and if it's good energy, you like want to see more of those in person. And
if you ask the riders too, there ain't one rider that doesn't want them back.
yeah,
You know, it's not because the athletes aren't wanting it. That's for sure.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
which I think says a lot, you know, like it's 100% if you build it, they will come situation right now,
Totally.
you know, like, I mean, yeah, I wish I could fucking just have someone, you know,
Put one on.
if I was able to like host a contest series, you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
like that would be the fucking first damn thing I would do.
Yeah. I mean, you did though. You did host your own. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
I
cool.
mean, on a professional level, really
yeah.
is like always been my goal.
Yeah.
But
it's hard, man.
Hard to pull off,
yeah.
man.
I mean, with the stuff that you've done with your stuff down here in Texas, like it's so cool. It's cool to like pour back into the BMX community. And I think that that's like, you know, you talk about like getting a little older in the sport and like to be able to say like, okay, I want to give back a little bit. Did you learn a lot through those like moments of like putting on your own event about like how much actually goes into it?
Fuck. Yeah. Every one of them, man. Yeah. And really just, it's always different too. You know, you're always coming across new sets of hurdles to leap.
Yeah.
You know, in literally in every event, at every location, every year, it was always something different.
Totally.
You know, even if you kind of kept the same formula that for each event, you know?
It almost harms you when you have the same formula because like you do encounter those new hurdles or whatever it might be. The weather might be shitty. Like, dude, there's so many variables.
Injuries, you know? You know, hosting an amateur event in general and just inviting the woodworks, man. Like, we're having a contest. Come on down, you know?
Some dude who's been riding for 3 months just out there sending.
Literally, man. Like, and then when you're, you know, when they're at the 𝙎𝘾𝘼𝙍𝙀𝘿 born and raised and Buddy's laid out in the bottom missing 6 teeth and a fucking 2 𝙬𝙍 fingers. And they're like, Chase, what do you want us to do?
You're just like,
call the fucking ambulance. What do you mean? Like,
I can't fix
wake
that.
him up, throw some water on him, slap him in the face. Like,
damn, that's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, that's just one part of it too, right? You know, so it's, I mean,
logistics are crazy.
Anybody out, I mean, Trey probably, you know, he's experienced some gnarly situations with Swamp Fest, I'm assuming. You know, really anybody who's done events and gone that route and knows the liabilities that come with it and really how much work goes into it leading up to it. It's like a fucking wedding to a certain extent because you know you're 6 months out from the event, planning, you know, working with
spending a shitload of money,
sometimes 10 different people on Zoom calls, you know, every few weeks, and then the day comes, right, and it's fucking over, and you get to the end of it, and like you've been doing so much shit all day that it goes by super quick, and everything that you've invested into it, like, yes, it was important, but just it's all a breeze, right? You know,
when it's hard to like determine if it was a success, you know, when you're in the moment because you're just like, it's a whirlwind.
It is, yeah. And always afterwards, you do going. That's usually when you find out how worth it was, is going back and hearing how good of a time everybody had. Or
seeing all the clips on Instagram of people stoked.
Everything that comes from it afterwards is the rewarding part, right? It's like what you're like, oh, okay, I remember why we did this, right? You know?
Yeah, when you get a look in the rear view mirror when you're driving away and you're like, oh, okay, I get to celebrate now.
Yeah, I mean, so many, you know, so many people that rode my event in particularly was their first one.
That's cool.
You know, and to give that experience is something special, you know, and especially if that kid does really well, it can be life-changing. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's one of those circumstances that could be like with you going on that props trip, you know, like you never know what could be that turning point.
It could be the reason, like, if that kid does it for the next 10 years or not, you know? And, like, all of those things.
It's cool to give an opportunity like that. That's incredible. While we're talking in the vein of contests, I want to talk about, like, basically the Super Bowl in BMX, which is X Games.
Yeah.
You won X Games in 2014.
Yeah.
Which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Going into that event, or any of the X Games that you've ridden for that matter, was that ever something that crossed your mind? Like, obviously you're going there to win, but did you think like, hey, I'm going to take gold in my home city?
Fuck no. No. I mean, and even down to, like, you know, being in the process of it all happening and then happening was just like very, just, you know, blur and a dream.
Yeah, kind of surreal feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confused as to how I was able to put myself into as calm of a state as I was in. And I couldn't tell you now, like, what really even took me there. I don't know, because that's not how I treated previous X Games, you know, and that's an event that's always mind fucked me, you know, and I think a lot of different athletes are mind fucked at X Games. That's like
it's the top tier,
the big stage, right? You know, and once your name gets called and the fucking camera, there's just so many different variables that go into the possibility of that happening.
You can't really prepare for that either, right? Like when the camera guy's like, "You're on."
It's all commercial based, you know, because you're live with all of it, so you don't get told when you never go when you want to go at those events.
Jeez.
And more likely than not, you're like always told to go when you're not ready to go. Really, that's the reality
not
of
amped up yet,
to where you just almost have to live on deck, like, at all times. Like, this is when, all right, I could any fucking second, you know. You're like, it's like the random start, like on the race skate. You're just like, you're just like waiting for that last, like, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's hard too, because like you're probably like sitting on decks, anxious the whole time, and like your heart rate's up and you're exhausting yourself. So the time you do get a drop in, you're like spent.
Yeah, I mean that whole day is see how long you can hold your breath challenge. Jeez. You know, you're just like fucking just walking around.
Here we are,
dripped up, dude. Just like, this is just intense, right? Like,
that's crazy.
Normally everybody's over caffeinated and underfed.
Yep.
So you're just fucking already on edge.
Staunched out.
You're just like, ready to fucking throw up after your run. Like, it's just it's a heavy day, right?
So what was that feeling like when they're calling the podium dudes and like your name gets called for the gold medal? Like, what went through your head?
I mean, by that time, I had already, it was weird because it was 6 hours or so after the fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'd kind of like had the day to like marinate on all of it and like go around and do my interviews and fucking see family and friends and do all this other stuff. I mean, it was more in the moment of like it actually happening, because, and the way that it happened, because if I remember correctly, I think it was my first run score that put me there, and then I fucking just stayed there.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just stayed the highest score, and I was like left there the whole time to just like look at a screen, right?
You're just like,
and
fuck.
I don't know, just like you're just constantly waiting for like
somebody
to get bumped out,
you.
right? Like, you know. And I think I just like I went to the top after the first run, and then I fucking just stayed there. So it was like that alone was like, wait, is this really fucking happening, you know? And then like obviously it got down to the end to where it was like one of those situations like, oh, you know, Dennis is left to go. He could take me out, you know.
And if anybody's gonna do it, it could be that
right.
man.
And it might not have even been him, you know, like, but it was like it got to that point to where like, you know, I mean, one more rider to go, you could bump him out, you know, and then he didn't, and I was just like, what the fuck, you know, like,
wow.
I mean,
I'm sure it was pretty loud and wild and crazy in there too, with you being from Austin. It's in Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had tons of,
Was
It was
that
loud, for
was that
sure.
energy like helping you push a little harder too? Like, or could you not even hear it?
Going back and watching it, it was I was just calm,
Yeah.
dude, and like even down to my face and stuff, like I could tell like how relaxed I was, which is confusing to
Yeah.
me,
You're
right?
like, that's
I'm
not
saying,
me.
like that's not me. That's not how I handle myself at events, because people know I really do get into my head and put a lot of pressure on myself, because that's usually the only thing that can like fucking help me
Push you.
pull it off,
Yeah.
like, So I don't know how the fuck I did it, really.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm stoked you did, because
You know?
that was a moment in time. I just remember seeing that and being like, whoa, you can ride like that and like win contests. Like, that's sick.
That was a 50-50 end result in that win.
Yeah.
With how many people were stoked and pissed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I remember seeing
Like-
the comments of like, this guy was doing
Fuck
600
yes.
tail whips.
Fuck
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
This
You
doesn't
know?
make sense.
Which is, that's everybody's gonna have their opinions
Yeah.
about who
Can't
should win a
please
contest,
everyone.
but
So you obviously won the X Games, and that meant that you got a day delegated to you or named after you here in Austin.
yeah, so I feel like obviously it was the X Games coming to Austin alone was really big for the city. It was something that they took pretty seriously and made a big deal of. There's a lot of buzz around the town when X Games had signed the contract, and it was and announced that it was gonna be there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it'd be out at Coda, every year. And that was the first year. The first year I won was the first year of the event. So there was a lot of buzz around the whole fucking thing,
Yeah.
right? I want to say that their biggest attendance out of all 3 years was the first year.
That's cool.
Like specifically on the day that we rode too, the day that,
No way.
yeah, the Saturday of the contest, there was like over 100,000 people on site for the
Whoa.
event.
That's a lot of humans.
That's comparable to how many are there for an F1 event.
Yeah. Wow.
And I want to say that, it was really hard for them to even hit half of those numbers in the years moving forward.
Interesting.
So that first year, there was a lot of people from Austin there,
Yeah.
right? So it was like,
That's cool.
it was a big deal to win that one,
Yeah.
especially for the fucking kid from Austin.
Yeah. If
Like,
you're going to win one, that was the one to win.
it instantly opened up a lot of unintentional hype doors locally.
That's cool.
Like local news fucking ate that shit up, right? Local boy wins first, fucking X Games gold, So there was a lot of like opportunities in the weeks afterwards, that
Sure.
all sorts of shit like that, like front page of the newspaper and all that stuff,
Wow.
like to where I think really kind of how it timed out was, I remember it was like 4 or 5 days after I had won, the governor, fucking Rick Perry, like tweeted me and was like, congrats to, Austin native for
Whoa.
winning X Games gold or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, this is wild now, and I
This
think
is getting
that's
real.
when the fucking then the mayor reached out, and then that's kind of how the whole
That's sweet.
congressional day.
What does that
was-
process look like? Like, did you get to be like part of the, like, I don't know how, is there a process?
It was pretty chill. It's more or less like a little bit of like a ceremony type thing, you basically what happened was, some really close friends and family, we met at a restaurant one afternoon, and the mayor, along with like some of his people, were there, and he does this little speech, and they have the plaque that's like the proclamation,
Yeah.
and it's like
Legitimate.
framed up and signed by the mayor and looks like fucking very legit, right?
Looks like the
got
Declaration of
all
Independence.
sorts of stamps and shit all over it, and yeah, it's like a weird 10-minute little kind of congratulatory
That's
congratulations.
sick.
Here you go, man. Like,
Did you get a key to the city too?
no
No.
key. It was more just this plaque. But what's cool, I mean, it's the day that lives on.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
What is that? August 15th, 16th?
August 16th, here August 16th is now Chase Hawk Day in
Dude,
Austin,
that's
Texas,
crazy.
You know?
It's crazy too, because that's like a legacy. Like that'll live on beyond you. Like how crazy is that?
You look up the list of people who have gotten these here, and it's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Like I'm on there with like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Paul McCartney
Whoa.
and fucking.
Damn, that's
like,
cool.
these.
What an accolade,
Yeah,
dude.
just the.
That's so sick.
Yeah, so it's
That's a humbling moment for sure.
being someone from here, right? That's
Yeah.
like that hit way different for me, like it's a hell of an opportunity for anybody, but
Yeah.
it really is a hell of an opportunity for people who get to take advantage of it off the city that they're from, that they still live in.
Yeah.
There's just a special attachment to that,
Did you see like an uptick in like people around the city recognizing who you were? Like almost like a local
Totally.
celebrity?
Yeah. Well, like, X Games too. I mean, I was that they brought me on for like their full marketing campaign for their next year's event.
Mhm.
So, once next year's X Games came around, like I was, on the poster.
Yeah.
I had my own fucking
Because they
X
did a
Games
full
poster.
video with you too, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're riding down the street and like kind of
I
telling
was in
your
their
story.
commercial.
Yeah.
They filmed to promote the event with fucking Nija and all sorts
Dude,
of other
that's cool.
like real deal commercial, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, those are the types of opportunities that come with shit like that.
Yeah.
You just you instantly get thrown and lumped into everything that they're doing now. And you get to go along for their ride.
The real big time stuff.
Yeah, that was like really one of the only times in my career that like I got to piggyback and take advantage off that.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I
like,
feel like not a lot of people at at any level right now in BMX are really getting to experience anything like that. Like that's kind of like the old school dudes, like Miras and those type of guys, like Nyquist. Like those dudes probably got to experience some stuff like that. But since that era, like
they've been through some,
but like nobody's really gotten anything like that since. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that I've been aware of.
Yeah,
like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's no denying that things are different right now.
Yeah.
And just volatile.
Yeah.
And
but it's cool to be able to like
you know?
embrace that and like then also like, put it on your back and be like, yo, like this is possible. And like you embraced it and like did it so eloquently that like other people, sometimes look at that stuff and they're like, I don't know if that's it, dude. But it's cool to like see you like put that on and be like, dude, this is what it is.
There's never a better time to take advantage of an opportunity when everybody else is sleeping.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, I mean, and that's kind of how I saw that situation.
Totally.
It's just like, spearhead something that nobody else is choosing to, and run with it
and just embrace.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that being said, like, what do you think like some of the biggest challenge that like riders are facing today, or like new kids kind of coming up the ranks?
Man, particularly for young kids coming up, I mean, it's just I guess it would be the frustration in knowing that really now is not the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and coming to that acceptance that you're gonna have to continue to wait.
Yeah.
And it's not, and that's what's really hard to explain to a lot of these people is, it's not you, it's me situation.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids have to be reminded and remember for themselves that it's not how they're particularly handling themselves. It's not that they're not putting in the work, because most of them are to a certain extent. It's just, what do you do with them, and how do you market these people in a time where just there's not a lot going on,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we talking about there's not many events. I think the events that do exist that are consistent right now are feast events,
Yeah.
or styled events around, and it's
And that's how
you see a lot of the same riders at every event,
Yeah.
right? And I think it only caters towards really one specific side of,
And that style riding to me is very similar to like when we were talking about racing earlier.
Yeah.
It's very, very serious. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's very serious and it's
Yeah.
very focused. So like, that's a hard thing to like get into while you're just coming up in BMX.
Yeah. So I mean, it just goes, I don't know. I mean, personally, what I would like to say to these kids is, don't stop doing what you're doing, because you are doing the right thing. You just really, you fall circumstance to difficult times, and this isn't the only industry that's feeling the effects of it. Really, others are feeling probably more affected than we are, and there's a lot more tightening up coming from a corporate level than a grassroots level, right? Which is where we lie.
Yep. I mean, I look at like even just snowboarding right now. Like snowboarding is in like a bad way from an industry.
Everybody's
and there's
in a
such a
bad way.
corporate. Yeah.
I'm still learning day to day how bad we're like everybody is continuing to get. Where like
economy wise, like we haven't even seen any, like the next 6 months will probably be pretty crazy, right? And like
that's so much unknowing,
trickling
right?
down.
And for you look at that from the people at the top's perspective, and you understand why everybody's got their hands deep in their pockets right now. Because they're trying to fucking keep whatever's there.
Yeah. Stop the bleeding a little bit, and like
whatever any, that's the other thing, I think there's a lot of people not saying necessarily how much they're in the shitter. Right. And like there's a lot of just speculation. Like, and that's all anybody can do, because really nobody's going to be honest about it, right?
100%.
So I think with all of this unknowing, more so than I've really seen it in all of my professional years, is pretty fucking unique right now.
Yeah. For sure. It's like the perfect storm,
the
perfect storm kind of happened, and we'll see where it takes everything.
I'm not worried about it, though, because
it'll always get
BMX
better.
has experienced a lot of perfect storms.
Certainly.
And we've weathered every one of them,
Yep. And it comes back stronger.
Yeah, exactly. So there is going to be a resurgence from all of this,
peaks and valleys,
That's why, but it is important for people to be playing chess. They're not checkers right now.
Very strategic. And like you got to weather the storm, man. And like,
I don't know. You got to be smart about your decisions, but at the same time, like I said, take advantage of rare opportunities of, doing things that other people aren't, if you can. Be different
a little bit, right? And like kind of think differently.
Take advantage of things nobody else is right now that they normally would be.
Totally.
So
I think that's a really good like perspective on the whole thing, because like it is crazy out there right now, like everywhere. Like you said, it's crazy.
Not going to be long either.
No.
We're not 2007.
No.
We're not hitting that fucking crazy crash around the world, right? Where
it'll level out.
That was the last big one, correct? Like this ain't going to be that, and even everybody's kind of saying that and reminding you that it's not going to be that too, so it's like it's not going to be much longer, right? But like for the guys, I see a lot of kids out there that are working for it and probably do deserve it, that just can't get it because it's not accessible.
Just
right
wait
now.
a little longer. And
know?
Patience is hard when you're young. That's such a hard thing to learn.
It just goes back though to like, I don't know, you times like this really spell out, like the people who are in it for the right reasons and
Certainly.
are willing to weather this storm with
Yeah.
you
Kind of
and in the
weeds the
circles
field.
that they're in,
Yeah.
in hopes to still be fucked with moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where your mindset needs to stay right now.
Yep.
Don't give up just yet. Even regardless of how tough it is right now. It's tough for fucking everybody right now.
I love that.
Um,
Hell yeah. Well, talking about the state of the industry, you've had a ton of signature products in the BMX industry. You've had shoes, all kinds of cool stuff. What are some of your favorite ones that you've been able to work on?
Man, I couldn't single out anything.
Yeah,
really,
there's been so much.
I mean, it kind of goes back to that same work ethic I have of, filming a video part, or just anything that has my name attached to it and how I want it to be perceived to the public. It's got to, people have to know it's mine, right?
Yeah.
Which my interest needs to go into it fully, so I've tried anything that I've ever had the opportunity of putting my name on. I've tried to do 100% due diligence to make sure I'm very happy with it.
Yep.
That way I can fucking support it fully once I have it.
Stand behind it in a real way.
Yeah. And now, I've been in sometimes you don't always get that option or opportunity. Sometimes it's a choice between one or two things like that already exist.
Yeah.
You
get to pick between these colors.
Yeah, exactly. But not always.
Yeah.
And normally the things that you become most attached to are the things you spend most time on that people end up liking the most.
Yeah.
So like
small details matter, man.
A lot of the, I've created a lot of really good stuff with Odyssey, man.
Yeah.
Those tires were,
I was just gonna say,
fucking changed the game a little bit.
Yeah. Everybody went to a tire like that.
Nothing like that existed at the time. We did a lot of thought into like what exists right now. What can we do differently, and how can we make it to where it'll still be something that I'll like.
Yep.
And like fuck with it on everything.
Yeah.
Right. Which is really should be everybody's approach to designing something.
Yeah, intentionality is important.
Yeah. Because I've been on it on the other end, and it sucks when you have your name on something and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah,
I gotta put that fucking thing on, man.
Yeah.
Like, god damn it. Like, it sucks, know? Like, you don't want to, it's the opposite. You don't want to market it, right? Because you feel like you're marketing something with your name on it that you don't support.
Yeah. Disingenuous.
Nobody wants to be doing that, you know?
Just reminds me of like Wayne's World when they're sitting there eating the Doritos and stuff. So people will do anything if they get paid.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Yeah. So that's always been one of my favorites. I've always been very intentional with my frames as well. Really, like the first thing I try and ask myself and in every part of these processes is, what can we do that's different than everything else that you're either doing currently or have done?
Yeah.
Like let's start there.
Sure.
Like, let's do something new. What colors have you not done? What surfaces have you not fucked with?
Yeah.
Like, what can we make that, because right, you want your product to have intention in the line and be different than everything else that's in it.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense hearing you say that, because like over the years you have had some like crazy colored bikes that are just like kind of off the wall that were kind of unexpected. Like,
yeah, probably,
like a fit that was like that maroon red flat color like that. For me, I remember that as like a game-changing color. Like, that was hanging up in my local bike shop and I was just like, dude, that satin red is like insane. And like,
same with that blue. We did the blue right up afterwards, and like
the graphics were sick, like the gold graphics on there.
Yeah.
Kind of set the precedent for like what the market was almost.
Yeah, I think that's just that's a way that I've always tried to go about the process with anything that is for Chase Hawk, right?
Yeah.
Like I gotta invest. I gotta make sure I at least let everything that I want.
Yeah.
Regardless of
Put
where
your
it
two
ends up
cents
from
in.
here. Like, I got to make sure that I've done my work, right?
Totally.
So
And when you're doing those frames, were you working with Adam a lot on those graphics too?
always.
Always.
Always. I mean, 90% of everything that's ever been put out with me with a logo on it has been from him.
Wow.
Like,
that's freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, even down to, I mean, I used to have him literally hand draw me shirts that I would wear.
Whoa.
Like, at events and stuff. Things that I probably shouldn't have gotten away with.
Yeah.
Things like writing for Fox and being like, I don't really like any Fox clothes, so will you just fucking draw me a Fox shirt and I'll wear it at this contest, right?
Oh, that's sick.
I did this a couple times before, like I really got slapped across my wrist, but I did it.
They're like, wait, we don't make that.
The designers got stoked on it, right?
Yeah.
And they took it as like he's trying to better some, I don't know,
Yeah.
like to where I think it turned into where I got to actually go and help them design some stuff afterwards.
That's cool.
And it kind of opened up that door for me.
Yeah.
Fit as well. I would have him hand draw me fit shirts, and like you go back to the I'm wearing one in the Backyard Jam that I went to. I mean, I just posted a clip of it last week. I mean, I'm wearing like a fucking Sharpie fit shirt that Adam drew.
Oh, he was like hand drawing them, hand
drawn shirts. I'm talking
I thought he was like drawing it on paper, then having it screen printed.
Hand drawn, like Sharpie on shirts.
That's
like,
gangster.
Like this is like.
Do you still have any of those?
No, I
Dang.
wish. The fit one was like something special, and the same thing. Like we went back and like
made that was
shirt. That was a shirt that was made.
Damn, that's so cool.
But I mean, those were some of the first things that I think he probably did, but then that turned into like obviously everything, all sticker graphics, everything that ever existed from sticker graphics, from Fit to Cult, like everything came from him, right?
Yeah. That's crazy too, because he's just got such a diverse style.
Yeah.
Like he can literally do it all so well.
And people that have been following him throughout this whole process have seen how his style is.
The progression.
Everybody gets better and changes, right? You know? And it's like, I don't know. It's been fun to have him a part of my journey, right? We've done this together.
It's super
to a
cool.
certain extent, There's a lot of my most important projects I've been a part of, or he's right there as well,
sick.
And he's a big part of why it's happening and why we're pulling it successfully.
That's sick. Well, now you guys are working hand in hand together with Burn Slow, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's super fucking exciting for me. I mean, for me personally, it's something I've always wanted to do, is, have a business really with this circle of friends that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we've always talked about for the last 10, 15 years. And really it just came to a point to where we all decided to pull the trigger on it. And I mean, we're going on 2.5 years into it, and it's just been so fun.
Yeah.
Like every project we've been able to do has just been spawned from our brains, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we've all spent our entire careers thus far working for other companies.
Sure.
Working and doing things that on other projects that other people are planning, right, for us,
serving others in a way.
Now we're on the other side of the table, and it's okay. Well, what do we want to do, and who do we want to include? And how do we want to handle? I don't know. It's just
is it giving you another perspective on the industry, kind of being on the other side of that table, like looking inward on it?
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
I mean, and luckily we have really luckily we have Tina and Tom involved in the whole process,
and they kill it with everything they do.
Well, they're their mom and dad in the situation, right? You know, they've done trend throughout the whole process of Empire. They've had a successful business for the last
20
you know,
years
since
almost.
we've all been alive,
Yeah.
really, you know. So we have people in our group that, I don't know, they
Like,
won't let us get too out of line.
help
right?
guide you a little
we'll
bit.
be very guided by
Yeah.
them, right? You know, like,
And that's important to have, you know, those mentors around you that are like, hey, like what you're doing is good, but like you can do it better by doing this, you know.
not
and,
to
like,
say that Adam doesn't have a very good understanding of what needs to be done as well, but
Yeah.
you know, I tell you, me and Aaron and Devin don't.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, it's good that there's knowledgeable people in that
Yep.
sense.
having
you know.
guidelines from people who have done it before and
Yeah.
who have lived through it, like you avoid a lot of headache when you're open to hearing like, hey, like you can do it that way, but like just listen to me because I've done this and here's how we did it, you know. And even if you don't do it that way, at least you have the perspective, right?
Exactly.
It's so cool.
And yeah, I mean, I think I'm just more excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah.
Right. You know, like everything that we've done thus far has been so fun, but I know that the potential is just so much more.
It's
endless,
astronomical.
you know. So it's just like kind of the same mindset I have with everything else right now. Is just like I'm stoked to slowly fine tune all of this.
Yeah.
And like just fucking snowball it into something.
Well, it's just
massive.
cool to see like a rider-owned business that's like, you guys are obviously super BMX focused, but I think like it can be so much more broad than BMX too, which I think is really cool. Like that's a unique perspective to have, to be like, we you know, your clothing isn't like BMX centric, so you can like sell it to other people and like it looks cool. Like
100%.
every time I like wear like a Burn Slow hat or shirt into a dispensary in Colorado, literally everybody in there is like, dude, that's so cool. And I'm like,
That's awesome.
dude, yeah, here's the website, go buy something, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like it transcends BMX.
Totally.
And like you can tell like with everything you guys are putting out that there is a lot of like thought and a lot of fun going into it.
Yeah.
And like I think that's something that's overlooked just in business in general. Is like, dude, if you're not having fun, then what the fuck are you doing?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Is that something that like the folks over at Empire have helped you guys out with, like kind of helping you guys understand that fun is a big part? Because it seems like they've always focused a lot on the fun.
For sure. I mean, and luckily, I think that it's something that we all have a pretty good grasp upon as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's hard to fake it when you're not.
Yes.
Right? If you're not thoroughly enjoying every part of this process, it'll show in your work.
100%.
And that's unavoidable, you know. So, I think it's good for all of us at this certain point in like all of our careers that's a part of it. It's just given us this separate opportunity to focus on a different realm of
Yeah.
it, really, you know. Like and really I think that's the most exciting part about it for me personally, much more than like what it could potentially grow into.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, you know, what can I learn from this, and how can I particularly help, you know, what can I do to help grow it?
Yeah.
You know, like what's everybody's
Like
position
their role
in this
in it.
gonna be?
Yeah.
You know, and especially moving forward, because that's gonna be what grows
Yeah.
us inevitably.
Well, especially
you know?
like defining those roles early on, right?
Yeah.
Like I have some friends that have started a business a couple of years ago, and that's what I told them from the beginning. I was like, you got to define the roles now,
Yeah.
because like when it is 5 years in, and like if it does blow up, you're gonna be like looking around the room and like, okay, who the fuck is doing what?
Yeah.
Because we're lost now.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I really like. I would love it within, you know, if it were to be within a few years, if I was a guy that, you know, if we had a warehouse by then, and if I was a guy that in the back fucking packing hours of orders, 8 hours.
I love
you know,
that.
Like, but if it's for Burn Slow, fuck
Yeah.
yes.
Some
you
busy
know?
work,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
like,
That's what Tina was telling me the other day with Empire that blew my mind, is that they've shipped all their online orders themselves forever.
if there's anybody in this industry that's not hurt currently, it's them.
Yeah.
Which
They've put
There's
the
a lot
work
to be
in.
fucking said in that.
They've
man.
put the work in, man, and it's so respectable. And like you can just see like in every project they've ever done that it's like there's a lot of love that goes into it. And they're not here for the money. They're here to like give back and like be a part of BMX, and they care.
They're core as fuck. They always have been. They've never veered off those tracks, even for a fucking second.
Yeah.
And people don't forget that shit. You know, if you remain with those values for that amount of consistency, you're unbreakable. They're
100%.
steel, right? You know, they're fucking molten steel
Yeah.
right now, and they will be there for many years moving forward for that reason.
Yeah.
You know, especially with how much untrustworthy shit there is in every distribution throughout the world right now. You know,
they're steadfast.
being trustworthy is there's a lot to be said in that currently.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Super impressive.
Yeah, the Empire, you know, I think everybody knows that there's not one bad thing to be said about that whole establishment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had never met them until this trip, and like I stood there and talked to him for like 2.5 hours the other day, just like having my mind blown the whole time, just like getting the whole story and hearing that business is about to turn 20 years old this coming April. Like that's so cool, and like that's hard to do in BMX.
It is, man. And
there's not a lot of people that can do that
right now too. You know, to have a big building that you can consistently keep emptying.
Yeah. It's impressive.
They might be one of the only.
Yeah.
You know, one of the few.
Yeah.
You know, definitely, you know, now more than ever, you know, support your local shop.
Yeah, for
Obviously, if you have one that you feel the need to support in your area, trust me, they need it right now. But, you know, if your intention is to order mail order, I mean, I don't think that there's really a better choice to choose wisely if you really want to support real BMX in this whole process, you know, and you're someone worldwide that needs something in a weird location from a distributor, right? Like, you know,
they can do
fucking hit Empire up. Don't hit any of these other fucks up.
Yeah. Dude, it's the truth, dude. Yeah. It's the truth. Well, as we kind of move into wrapping this up, I'm curious what you think that your biggest failure along your professional BMX career has been.
Oh, wow.
That's a heavy hitter, man.
That's a good one, man.
Saved it for the very end.
That's a fucking good one. What would be my biggest failure? Well, I think the first thing that I have to say, right, is, you know, first and foremost, there's no regrets in anything, you know. Every decision I've made thus far has got me here.
Certainly. You
know, and I'm not, I'm happy about where I'm at. You know, I think really it's how to better the situation right now.
Yeah.
A failure, I guess, you know, man, this is a tough one because I really do want to answer this correctly.
Yeah.
And if there is something, you know,
yeah, it's hard to like choose, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could always say that, you know, something that I would have, you know, I could have gone down this road of searching for how to make myself better sooner.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But I don't think, you know, there's no explanation for the process of any of those things.
You can't force yourself to be ready for something like that.
Exactly, you know. I really, you know, if I could pick one thing, honestly, it would have been to not be so personally hard on myself. I think I have 100% made countless situations way harder for myself by myself.
Sure.
I've made my life 1,000 times more difficult and more filming projects, more contests, more everything. Whereas if I could have, been better about stepping back and really just looking at an alternative way of dealing with things,
Sure.
I could have had a lot of things much easier. And I've probably lost years of my life from it.
From like the stress
from
of
the
it.
stress that I've overcreated for myself, just in this window in my head, like telling myself that this is the way that it needed it to be.
Sure.
Like it would, I mean, like when people say like you're your own worst enemy, in difficult situations, I think I'm 100% like that guy.
Sure.
Because yeah, I mean, I'm really bad at telling convincing myself that where the bar needs to be set for me, that is kind of unrealistic.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll give you a good example. Is this has happened to me a lot of different times, really. And at contest. Qualification day, pretty routine, like super nervous, ride qualifying, and basically convince myself that I've like ridden the worst that I could possibly ride. Like I've tried, I rode 7 days of practice. I tried out, I practiced all my lines, whatever. I just felt like I did horrible. Would leave the course sometimes and go back to like Airbnb and whatnot. Like and sometimes already be like packing shit up.
No way.
Like, like this is,
Just not
this
worth
is
your
how
time
it's
almost.
already, and then finding out I qualified first or second or
Whoa.
third, or like, being like, they'll qualify 20. Like, there's no way I made it in. And then being in the top 3 or 4, So, like, imagine, like, how far I was off from, like, the reality of what everybody else
Just
felt.
digging yourself that
Right?
hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's a dark place to get out of, too.
It is.
And then to go back and, like, still have to live up to now you qualified number 1. You're like,
well, that and to be
okay.
motivated to go back to every one of them, knowing what it's going to create for yourself mentally.
Yeah. Wow. Dang, that's gnarly.
So that, that same mentality can be implemented in a video project just as easily.
Sure.
Especially one as big as what the Etnies video was.
Yeah.
And then I did stupid things during that where I would choose to, go on 10-day trips with just the filmer.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mike. Like, let's go to Montana and film for 12 days, just you and me.
Yeah.
Like no one else can fuck with us.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
like the energy's not right.
No. But you end up overworking yourself. Right?
Oh, okay.
You end up over battling yourself. And I would like go into it being like, I'm trying to do the most. I'm trying to get the most.
Yeah. Like
I want to end up at the end of this project with 2 videos to fucking choose from.
Sure. Wow.
Like, I mean, I had a 60-minute timeline from that project that we dwindled down into a 10-minute part.
Damn.
So you imagine that much footage on a timeline and then taking a 1/10 of it.
Yeah. And also like the amount of time that went into that 60 minutes is astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
So there would be numerous points on all sorts of these trips where like you would end up in these battles of like being overly hard on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like overly beating yourself up in an already difficult fucking journey in itself.
Yeah.
Like you're already like in this Royal Rumble battle in it, right? In itself. And then like you're on the top of the ropes jumping onto yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
like
beating the shit out of
just
yourself.
fuck you, man. Like
dude.
you didn't do it, dude.
Yeah.
Like for whatever reason, you know,
Oh,
like
man. Yeah.
because there's good and bad days in filming and in writing, and you know,
yeah, it's hard to give yourself grace, man.
it's the hardest.
Yeah. Do you think on the opposite side of that coin, do you think like a lot of or a little bit of that like also helped like fuel your career though? Like it's hard to like obviously that shit sucks mentally, right? And it's
Yeah,
like the
well,
most draining and detrimental. But did some of that help you push to like, you know, better yourself like on the bike where you're just like, that sucked, I need to keep going? Like you came out with a better finished product, or do you think most times you were just like unhappy
Yes.
with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no denying that if you have that type of intensity with anything that you're working on, and you see it through to the end with that same emotion, like
Yeah.
start to finish, it's impossible for it to not show in the end result,
Yeah.
right?
Because you're putting your soul into it at that
Everything,
point, you know?
everything.
And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of projects is that people are like, they're doing them, but they're not putting their full soul into them. And like, but at points like you're talking about, it can be so detrimental because like you're putting every piece of your being into it.
Yeah.
And like that means there's sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And that you want to punch yourself in the face
dude,
kind of
oh
thing.
yeah, dude,
Like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
heavy shit, man.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, like I'm saying, like not everybody's like that, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that I think you have to get to a certain point in your career before you even like strive to want to be that intense.
Sure.
You know, and I think it goes back to like just what type of person you are just in general.
Yeah.
All of, you know, what type of life you had growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
how long you've been fighting for yourself just in general,
Yeah,
for
just to
yourself to like
survive.
get, you know, like I'm someone who knows myself personally, that like if I got myself here, you know, type
Yeah.
of thing, and like I'm in charge of keeping myself here.
Yep.
Right? You know, so that pressure can weigh on people, you
Yeah.
know, and everybody treats it differently,
Yep.
you know, and everybody's puts different pressure, different amounts of pressure on themselves, you know, and this is like something that I'm really currently trying to fine tune and like what the allowance should be.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like I've been,
That's a perfect word
You
for
know,
it too, because
like-
you need some of it in there, I think, to like
you do.
continue to drive forward. Because I feel if you would have been going down the path that you're on right now earlier in your career, like where you're at today may not be the same, right? Because you like it's hard to think like I kind of needed to be my own worst enemy to get through some of those times or
If
get
you
a project done.
if you talk to some of these few people that have been around me for a long, long time in this industry and have seen how I handle things, a lot of them will tell you that I have a really, really strong work ethic, you know, like more than others, right?
Sure.
You know, and it's noticeable, and they really see it when they're halfway through a project, and like, I don't know where my mindset is in it, you know, because it really there's been times where it's gotten like I've been told to like fall back,
Yeah.
you know, like
You've done it all, man.
you
Fall
know,
back
like
kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. Well, not that, but like, you know, more like, you know, quit asking so many questions. You don't
Yeah.
need to be this in tune with everything that's happening currently. Like,
Sure.
you can only control so many different variables. Like, quit trying to play like the puppet master.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's true. You know, it's like I just get so wrapped up into my shit. Like, what else can I be doing?
Yeah.
Like,
You want to control all the
everything,
variables.
everything. Like, and it's like, no, dude, you pump the brakes, man. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, if anything, like, we need to worry about some of these other fucking guys who haven't gotten anything yet.
Sure.
Like, I'm like, oh, well, fuck them. You
Yeah.
know, like, I'm ready, you
Yeah.
know, like, whatever. Like, so, I mean, I'm, you know, I know that we went off a couple of times, but it's like I'm definitely not regretful of how I've handled myself thus far, but I do feel like a big part of what's gonna allow me to keep doing it for how long I envision is gonna be me reverting my mindset a little bit,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
I think that's, yeah, I love, again, I've said it like 5 times so
Yeah.
far, but I love that you have that mindset right now. Cause
Yeah.
like, I think that, that's going to allow you to make that happen. So
Yeah.
that's badass.
Like I said, I mean, the motivation is that the fire is always there,
Yeah.
and it's just where you fucking direct that flame that like you can use it, and I think that I've always put that flame somewhere where it probably didn't need to be.
Yeah. Kind of almost wasted energy and kind of
Yeah.
in a sense.
Probably
Yeah.
let certain areas of my body and mind get way too fucking hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'll
and
happen,
I need to
man.
cool the fuck down.
That'll happen when you're a passionate person too,
Yeah, dude.
That's a hard thing. Like, again, it comes back, I think, to embracing those moments and just being like, okay, how much do I need to be passionate about this? And
Exactly.
how does this serve me, So that's sick, dude. Well, final question. This is another banger. So
here we go.
It's not as hard as the last one, I don't think, though. Do you have any final parting motivating words for the people that are listening here with us today?
Man, I think just kind of go with like the overall theme of what we've loosely been speaking about throughout this whole conversation, and it's just I think now specifically, like and moving forward into next year, it's there's never been a time where we need to be more forgiving of ourselves, and really try and give ourselves and our minds as much of a break as possible, and really, in a better sense of words, not being so hard on yourself, kind of how I've chosen to live my life this last decade plus.
Sure.
And just really trying to look at things from a different perspective and, really not try and put so much pressure on myself to do what I think is best and, like I said, just revert my mindset a little bit, and I think that everybody could probably do that a little bit, and I think, I don't know, it's so tough in a time where everybody is trying the best that they can.
Yep.
And just constantly getting fucking slapped around.
Yeah.
And you get into so many situations where you feel like, well, that's no matter what I try, it still happens. Like, what do you want me to fucking do?
Yeah.
Like there's so many people asking themselves and telling themselves the same thing. And it really, I think it does start with, yourself.
Yeah.
And you yourself has to fucking be more easy on yourself, man. And you have to be nice to yourself, and you have to do things that you enjoy and make decisions that are good for you and nobody else. I mean, it's a good time to be selfish in that sense of, worry about yourself and the people close to you and your family, and try to better yourself in these fucking weird, ugly times, because it's probably the most productive thing that you could be doing, and I think we'll all come out on the other side of this with a different perspective and inevitably stronger, and allow us to, hopefully repave a new road we can fucking haul ass on.
I love that.
We all fucking get on the other side of this,
Yeah. Well, I love the words of like, be a little more selfish, because I think, I've always believed, or more or less in the last few years of my life, like you can't be selfless unless you can be selfish.
Exactly.
And like that's a beautiful, recognition right there. So.
And it's, the people closest to you in your life will always understand that, and I think that they always have, but I think we're only recently becoming aware of it, and then, these people aren't going to hate you if you say that you can't go hang out with them this week.
In fact, they might appreciate you more because when you do get to hang out, you will give more effort to that time that you have because you care about yourself more. So,
or if you explain to your close group of friends as to why you're not going to be with them this week.
They'll be there to support you.
Exactly. I mean, it's it's nice knowing that you have other people there to support you, and you don't have to feel so alone in this whole process. And really, more times than not, a lot of people in your circle are going through something similar than you. So it's good to talk things out with your friends, start that conversation, man. Like,
have hard conversations, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, right? Is to like initiate conversations that are hard with people.
Dude, totally.
And once you do that, then it's easier to talk about it. And like even some of the conversations we've had today, like I feel like, these are things that people can hear and they're like, damn, I am going through that. Like I can reach out for help, like,
yeah, man.
I love the ability to like open up and have hard conversations because you never know who's going to hear it. And they're going to be like, oh yeah, like I've had that in my life. I'm sure you've had it in your life. Like you hear somebody that you look up to and you're like, oh yeah, like, damn, I can talk to somebody about that.
Yeah.
That's sick. So,
and I think we're seeing it a lot right now, just in everything, just with how ugly these last few years have been, right?
Yeah.
And how many, I don't know, lost friends and fucking a lot of things has changed, and I think it's important to speak up about things that weren't necessarily talked about so much in the past, right?
Yeah, man.
And this being one of them.
It's the most important thing we can do.
Yeah.
Look out for the people we love, dude.
Exactly.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I guess final question, is there anybody you'd love to give a shout out to, people that keep helping you make the dream come true? I know the list is probably insanely long, but if you have a few people you'd like to rattle off, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, my wife and family, they're here to support me the most, and they allow me to continue to do this in the vision that I have, obviously all my sponsors that I've been with forever, Robbie at Colt, everybody at Rockstar, Etnies, Empire, ProTech, Oakley, everyone, everybody that supports me. Would not be able to do this without you guys, and thank you to coming out to my house and doing this. Thanks to all you guys out here for listening, and I don't know, thank you to everybody who supports me and continues to.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, yeah, as we close this out, I just want to tell you thank you. Like, this has been a treat for me. Like, I never, as a 14-year-old kid, like growing up watching your stuff, a fanboy here for a little bit, like this is a surreal moment. So this has been so much fun, man.
Awesome.
I look forward to getting a session in with you at some point.
Absolutely, and for sure. Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
You'll be in the ramp.
Oh, dude, I can't wait to see
You'll
that
have to
thing.
Come back.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Keep being scared of normal. We're out.
Yep.